the everyday Hogwarts player. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 526 Goodbye, Bella. Luna chose the Phoenix incarnation, just like Hermione, who was far away in London. They made the decision almost at the same time. Ryan looked at Luna, wondering if she had seen Hermione's presence. Ryan was a little disappointed though. He thought he could hear a famous saying from his previous life from Luna or Hermione: only children make choices. As an adult, I want both. How come these two girls are so honest? If he asked them to pick one, they would pick only one, and turn a blind eye to the others. Both of these magics can be said to be Ryan's masterpieces. The Phoenix Incarnation Plus version is different from the original Phoenix Incarnation. It can hide the physical body in a temporarily opened space named Danshan by Ryan. Furthermore, compared to the original Phoenix Avatar, which was almost impossible to sense Phoenix magic and could only be used as a shadow clone, it was more capable of sensing Phoenix magic. Magic power will transform like Nirvana, and abilities will be born according to the areas in which one is good at. As for the tree shepherd, Ryan simply added a method to develop the Danshan, an internal organ. The contract tree is planted in it, supporting the long-term existence of the space and complementing the host. Two abilities will be born based on the type of tree and the area in which the tree is good at. Magic are not mutually exclusive. On the contrary, the permanent existence of Danshan space makes the transformation into Phoenix smoother, and although these two types of magic will not allow the wizard to transform into 3 abilities, but if all of them are learned, the abilities born based on the wizard's own areas of expertise are equivalent to 1.5 transformations compared with the original transformation of acquiring the Phoenix incarnation. There is 0.5 more now. It depends on what abilities and Luna Hermione will be born with. But Ryan suddenly turned his head and looked in one direction. The burrow? What happened there? Luna tilted her head curiously and looked at Ryan. Nothing, just a surprise. Ryan shook his head. In his imagination, Harry Potter's Task 6, face the remaining memories and digest them, should be truly completed after school starts. Not long ago, when Neville came to the burrow, Harry had just digested his memories and made the red beast mask on his left cheek. But Harry hadn't really completed Task 6 disappear yet. If the sequence potion, Dark Wizard, is compared to a capsule, Harry has only digested the shell of the capsule. The drugs inside, those memories, he has not really faced and accepted them yet. According to Ryan's estimate, Task 6 should be completed on September 1st, the first day of school at Hogwarts. But Ryan didn't expect that Harry Potter would truly digest everything in his dreams in just one night, just the introduction to Tree Shepherd. This all stems from the sprouting of the Harry Potter contract tree. It's really interesting. The content of Mission 7 needs to be changed. Ryan, who seemed to be still in a daze with Luna, thought so. Harry wasn't exactly surprised by the Tree Shepherd's initiation. 2 days ago, when Neville came to his house, he was happy about the disappearance of the red beast mask. He could finally look in the mirror naturally. But when he was summoned, the task panel on his retina still showed that Task 6 was not completed. This was alright, because he finally stopped being affectionate with Ginny despite himself. He can sober up and do it himself. But every day in his dreams, a tall figure appeared in his dreams. She has thick, black hair and long eyelashes. Her eyes were full of obsession, her dark, silky skin intoxicated him, and the ways in which she served him that Ginny could never do. Bellatrix Lestrange, the name of Neville's enemy, and her naked figure and superb skills in bed when she was young often appeared in her mind. He could not forget Bella, who called him master over and over again. His sweetheart. The only person I have loved. He seemed to have become Voldemort. He clearly loved her, but in the dream, he didn't know what this strange feeling was. He rejected and even tried to kill Bella several times. The figure in his dream and the occasional wandering thoughts during the day gave Harry a headache. He could only engage in a physical clash with Neville in the wilderness. Death Eater and Neville's enemy. She is to Neville what Voldemort is to himself. Therefore, after returning to his room, he did not feel much novelty about the magical scenes that had just occurred to him as a tree shepherd. I closed my eyes, dismissed the black spirit, and fell asleep. Outside the window, in the 5 flower pots under the banyan tree, the soil gradually rose up and the seeds underground began to sprout. Gradually extends toward the ground with the first rays of sunlight arriving at dawn. 5 shades of green began to appear in the raised soil. 5 tender green seedlings appeared in the flower pot that was just bare as the holly saplings swayed in the wind. Ripples also appeared in Harry's dream in the room on the 3rd floor. In his dream, he saw for the first time the memory of Voldemort making the locket Horcrux. It was a dimly lit room, and on a crimson velvet cushion lay a heavy golden locket. He stretched out his pale, slender left hand, picked up the locket, and held it up to the light. "The mark of Slytherin," he whispered, and a gorgeous, serpentine S gleamed in the light. The sound of heavy breathing disturbed him, and he looked at the ground with a little displeasure. It was a familiar figure, a figure that Voldemort had seen in his memory and among members of the first generation of members of the Order of the Phoenix, Caradoc Dearborn, the one who had disappeared 6 months after the photo was taken and whose body had never been found. His dark gray hair and distinctive mustache made Harry immediately associate his name with it. Dearborn's hands were bound behind his back with invisible chains, as were his legs. Wand with his free right hand, the companion he had seen thousands of times in his dreams, Caradoc Dearborn, Dumbledore's die-hard fan, his last student as Professor of Transfiguration. "It's incredible that your mother is related to the Gaunt family. Although it is very light, I think you should be most suitable for Avada to eat big melon. Goodbye Bella, and my cowardice." The green light of death flowed from his fingertips. Dearborn lay dead and motionless. The blue veins that had bulged due to excitement slowly disappeared, leaving only the lifeless pale skin. Strangely, Harry didn't care about this. In his dream, he tried his best to remember the address. The rest of his memory was devoted to that graceful, dark-skinned figure. The memories related to her disappeared frame by frame, and heart-wrenching emotions that Voldemort did not understand emerged into his heart. Whoosh! In the real world, Harry suddenly woke up with a gasp. Those emerald eyes were filled with unfamiliar sadness and tears. In a trance, Harry couldn't help but sigh. "Goodbye, Bella, haha, I finally used this joke." Daniel, the actor who plays Harry Potter in the real world, was also obsessed with Helena, the actor who plays Bella, when he was a teenager. I wrote too much without realizing it. Cool. P.S. The Bella in the novel version has dark skin, and must have been very beautiful when she was young, otherwise why would Voldemort have sex with her in the original book? Bella is viewed from Harry's perspective, so the focus is on her appearance flaws. Bella had been in prison for more than 10 years when she was released, so it was normal that her appearance had declined. Chapter 527 Pain. It was 6 o'clock, on the 3rd floor of the burrow, in Harry's room. Harry leaned against the head of the bed, motionless, like a dead body. Because he had just truly accepted something, Voldemort's love for Bella, and then he imagined Voldemort forcibly digging her out of his soul. So much so that the updated taskbar that appeared on Harry's retina did not attract his attention at all. Pain. It hurts. It hurts so much. Endless pain entangled Harry. Voldemort, who himself could not feel love, the pain caused by the loss of love was nothing more than the source of his power. But to Harry, it was incredibly profound and clear. It was like a scar that had not yet been scabbed over, but was being forcibly cut away with a thick and blunt iron spoon. About 10 minutes later, Harry came to his senses. He drew his wand, flicked it, and a piece of parchment flew out from the pile of books. Words emerged from the parchment paper, which had a light, soft caramel yellow and bronze background. Hedwig. The snow-white owl Hedwig flew over upon hearing the voice and stretched out her right leg skillfully. Village Square, with an old war memorial in the middle and a few benches. The clock on the church not far away seemed particularly blurry in the hot and distorted air, and its crooked hands pointed to the current time, 12 o'clock. Crack! 2 figures, one tall and one short, suddenly appeared in the scorching air. The tall figure was a thin man with silvery white hair and a beard that reached down to his waist. He was dressed in a black traveling cloak and a pointed hat. The whole thing exudes a mysterious temperament, an obvious wizard temperament. The slightly shorter figure next to him looks a bit like Frankenstein. Under his long gray hair was scarred skin, his mouth was like a big crooked gash, and the bulge where his nose should be was gone. Also missing was a leg, and in its place was a wooden leg that was thumped on the ground. The wooden leg was only a few inches long, and underneath was a claw-shaped foot. But the most terrifying thing is his eyes. One of his eyes was small, black and sparkling, the other eye was big, round like a coin, and a bright blue. The blue eye kept moving without blinking, moving up and down, left and right, completely unrelated to the normal eye. Then, the blue eyeball rolled over and went into the man's head, and only a large white eyeball could be seen. "Did you see that, Alastair?" The tall wizard turned and asked. Harry Potter never misses a thing, does he? Frankenstein sighed after taking a sip of the liquid from the curved bottle he carried with him. Come with me, Albus. Frankenstein limped towards the war memorial. Frankenstein walked and cursed. I knew you asked me to come here just to make it easier to find the way. With my magic eye, how can even Voldemort's secret hut escape my sight? He had now reached the monument. He stretched out his scarred hand and groped behind the monument. His blue eyes moved up and down and left and right. Got it. It's right here. There was a crisp sound of metal collision, and a rusty chain was pulled out of the air by Frankenstein. He shook his head, pushing his gray hair away from his face, his incomplete nose flaring slightly. Not bad. The smell of dark magic. The rest is up to you, Albus. The chain broke, and a door suddenly appeared from thin air, hanging crookedly in the air. As expected of you, so clean and neat. Frankenstein took another sip of the liquid in the curved wine bottle. As he spoke, he lifted his artificial leg and stepped into the air. Surprisingly, there seemed to be an invisible staircase between the ground and the door. Frankenstein limped up, followed closely by the tall wizard. There was no key to the door. Collision sounds and the rattling sound like a chain were automatically heard. Then the door creaked open. This is a luxurious house. The thick dust on the carpet, the peeling wallpaper, and the rusty snake-shaped decorations could not hide this. In the foyer, as they entered, the hollow lamps on both sides lit up automatically. The two walked to the center of the hallway and looked around. On the left is a narrow passage leading downwards. On the right is a marble staircase that can be described as exquisite. Ahem. There's so much dust. Frankenstein fanned his broken nose with his hand. Albus, now you can probably tell me what Voldemort uses this room for. The tall wizard didn't say anything. He waved his wand and the door frame behind him closed again. There was an extremely lost look on his face. Looking for someone. Also realized something. He put down the curved bottle and limped behind the tall wizard. As they approached, a flickering white light automatically emanated from the ceiling of the passage. The ground helplessly, and his scarred hands kept reaching towards the wall, trying to lean on it to stand up. Caradoc. It's him. It's him. Albus, it's him. I remember that was the robe we together bought at Tulfin clothing store. He said that the Order of the Phoenix had just been established and we should dress in a more elegant way. Which lowly and dirty pig heard him? Frankenstein howled in pain. Like the painful howl of a mother animal when she loses her cub. He lay prostrate, his face pressed against the dusty ground, but he didn't care. The tall wizard did not approach Frankenstein. He also held on to the wall with his hands, and his blue eyes were also filled with sadness. He thought he could remain calm. He had long since accepted Caradoc's death. I knew what I would see when I came here. But why? He still feels so painful. Heat stroke. I'll take a shower and then write the next chapter. Chapter 528. Two teachers. Obviously, the tall wizard is Dumbledore. Frankenstein is Mad-Eye Moody. And that corpse was Caradoc Dearborn. A younger generation who is like his own son in Moody's eyes. In Dumbledore's heart, his status was actually no worse than Newt's student. Only wizards like this are worthy of being sacrifices for Horcruxes, the additives that Voldemort forged his Horcruxes with his own lack of understanding of emotions. It was just because he died too suddenly and too early. Plus, since the body was never found, almost no one mentioned it. People who hope he is still alive and have been living in seclusion abroad are unwilling to mention him. In the room, Moody was already lying next to Caradoc's corpse, his dusty hands trembling as he adjusted the clothes on the skeleton. Dumbledore, standing by, was speechless as he looked at the mark on the velvet cushion on the high stool, whose color had unrecognizable. When Moody's breathing gradually calmed down, he looked down at Moody. Moody didn't look up, but he noticed Dumbledore's gaze with his blue eyes turning upwards. I'm fine. But I have a question. Can you tell me all the information Harry Potter told you? This child can't just die in vain. Oh, why can't he be a little more shy? If only he were a Hufflepuff. It would be great to run away and hide abroad as soon as I graduate. Maybe I can still. Moody's other normal eye kept staring at the corpse in front of him. This has to do with Horcruxes, Alastair. Harry was dreaming again. He had sneaked into Voldemort's mind in a dream. I saw the scene where Voldemort killed the child Caradoc and made the Horcruxes. Dumbledore said calmly. However, his eyes were filled with worry. Harry would not have been able to know this address just by looking at the picture. There is only one possibility, that the connection between Harry and Voldemort has become closer. In his dream, Harry even brought Voldemort to get the address. In fact, from Harry's perspective, he was the one who killed Caradoc himself. This was too cruel for Harry. Dumbledore said worriedly. I never expected that Harry had indeed suffered great psychological trauma. But it wasn't because of the murder, but because he abandoned Bella, whom he had just fallen in love with. Said Harry, he also knows the address? Because of the picture? I think there must be more to it than that. I think he needs a course in occlumency right now to sever his connection with Voldemort. Even in this sad mood, he still did not lose his sensitivity as an Auror and immediately noticed the extra information in Dumbledore's words. Perhaps. Dumbledore was a little moved. But when he thought of the magic of holiness and terror, love and hate that existed in Harry when he saw him some time ago, he gave up the plan. There is no way that a Harry like this could be controlled by Voldemort. Dumbledore suddenly found this a little funny. Tom Riddle at Hogwarts, the unstable factor in his eyes, his magic becomes more holy. Harry, who was used to prevent Riddle from changing, actually possessed a terrifying and dark magical power. Now Riddle is the protective lock of the magical world. Though Voldemort's thoughts are shallow, Harry is still a child after all. Thinking of this, Dumbledore suddenly felt that the suggestion made by that person not long ago might be a good one. Grindelwald, I want to meet Harry Potter, the treasure that you care about most now. Grindelwald's thoughts are dangerous to others, but for Harry, who may be influenced by Voldemort, it may be a good thing to fight poison with poison, prevent Harry from going to the dark and horrible end. And Moody, do you have any other plans? He could see at a glance that Dumbledore did not intend for Harry to do as he asked, practice occlumency. No. According to you, Harry was Voldemort at that time. He must know the whereabouts of the Horcrux. Moody asked immediately. Unfortunately, I have seen this Horcrux a long time ago. It is at 12 Grimmauld Place, the old house of the Black family. It has been broken into pieces, destroyed by Harry, said Dumbledore regretfully. He also hoped that the Horcrux was still there. Then he himself comes to destroy it. Are the fragments still there? I want to take a look. Moody's hands suddenly grasped the dusty carpet tightly, very nervous. It is in a drawer in my office, said Dumbledore. In the garden of the burrow outside the village of Ottery St. Catchpole, Harry suddenly looked up. This surprised Ron and the others on the side. Because Harry seemed to be in a very bad mood today. Neville volunteered to go to the valley to fight shirtless again to vent his anger, but was rejected by Harry. Harry was like this, so Hagrid mistakenly thought that it was his own problem and sent him back to Hogwarts early. And Harry's raising of his head just now was the biggest move he made that day. Period. Weasley and the others' parents. They hurried off soon after lunch. Then they rode back to say they had something to do and wouldn't be back that night. Ron guessed. Raised his head and looked at the sky. The others raised their heads as well. Sure enough, in the blue sky, a black dot gradually grew larger and finally turned into the snow-white Hedwig. What's in the letter? Is it from Mom and Dad? This was Ron helped but roll their eyes, but soon their eyes were drawn to Harry's reaction because Harry suddenly gasped, "What's wrong?" This time Ginny finally spoke first before Ron. Dumbledore is going to give me a private lesson this school year and he said I'd have 2 teachers. Harry was puzzled. Besides Dumbledore, who is the other teacher? Chapter 529 Recognition of Relatives. 2:15 p.m., in the garden of the burrow. Ron suddenly started coughing, Draco gasped, Ginny looked as if it was a matter of course, and Neville looked even more stunned. I didn't hear you wrong, said Ron. 2 teachers, who else can be compared to Dumbledore? Draco asked. Isn't this a sign? Harry was already very good. In addition, in a while, maybe they will have to fight Voldemort before the end of this semester, so it is normal for Dumbledore to want to train Harry. We can see this from the fact that Hagrid brought us seeds yesterday so that we could become tree shepherds. Ginny looked proud and looked at Harry lovingly. Harry, did you seem to have expected this? Neville, who seemed the most slow-witted, saw the deep meaning behind Harry's expression at a glance. Harry was indeed incredulous, but not because Dumbledore was his teacher. But this actually has teacher too. This is the clear mind of the sword, so how can magic not be an inconvenience? Just ask your questions one by one. Harry shrugged. Neville guessed right about this. This is related to a letter I wrote this morning. Harry looked at Ron and Ginny again. This is also the reason why your parents left suddenly after dinner. A letter? To whom? Dumbledore. Draco asked. Harry agreed. He went on to explain, It was because of a dream. So, you have another dream that you're hiding from us. Before Ginny could respond, Ron got angry for no apparent reason. Another prophecy? Is it related to Voldemort? Is he going to be resurrected early? Ginny's guess made Draco and Neville exchange glances and both became serious. Draco because his father was a Death Eater. Sometimes traitors are more hateful than enemies. And Neville thought of those 4 people. At the end of the First Wizarding War, Bellatrix, along with her husband Rodolphus Lestrange, her uncle Rabaston Lestrange, and Barty Crouch Jr., tortured her parents to insanity in order to find information about Voldemort after his defeat. Although his parents have recently returned to normal, whenever he thinks of those 4 people, Draco on the side quickly took a few steps away from Neville. Just now he felt that Neville was like a sharp sword, so if he was going to split him in half. Harry also subconsciously grasped his wand and turned to look in the direction where the danger was coming from. It was Neville. Harry breathed a sigh of relief. "Hey, Neville, are you okay?" Harry asked hurriedly. "It's okay." Neville returned to his harmless appearance. So, Harry looked at Ginny again and explained, "This has nothing to do with Voldemort's resurrection. I just dreamed about Voldemort's past memories. He made Horcruxes at a house in Bedfordshire. The locket we destroyed earlier. And I found traces of a person there, Caradoc Dearborn, the original member of the Order of the Phoenix whose body had never been found. I think Mr. Weasley and his party left so suddenly that they must have found Mr. Dearborn's body there." "You mean that Caradoc Dearborn? I heard he was a Parseltongue. Random place. Why are you looking at me?" "That's what my father guessed." Draco's words unsurprisingly caused glares from others. "What you said is outrageous. How could a member of the Order of the Phoenix becoming a Death Eater possibly affect Dumbledore's reputation?" The incident involving Peter Pettigrew was such a big deal, occupying the headlines of the Daily Prophet for several days, but it still had little impact on Dumbledore, said Ron. He stared at Draco intently, as if he wanted to swallow him whole. "Parseltongue? As far as I know, isn't that the mark of a dark wizard? Voldemort is the only Parseltongue in modern times. Draco, you are taking this too far. If Mr. Dearborn is a Parseltongue, can he still join the Order of the Phoenix?" Neville agreed to express doubt about Draco's words. And Ginny looked at Harry. She believed Harry's words the most. Draco's guess is actually quite well founded. But unfortunately, the basis is right, but the result is wrong. Harry looked at Ron. Although Mr. Dearborn's name is unfamiliar to us, he actually has an extraordinary identity, Dumbledore's student. This was mentioned by Voldemort. In Voldemort's words, he seemed to be Dumbledore's true student of Slytherin. Voldemort seemed to think he was different, too. Finally, they took him to a secret hut, killed him, and made Slytherin's locket into a Horcrux. Draco's father probably didn't know. So it's normal for him to make such a guess. Harry looked at Neville again. As for Parseltongue, it's not actually a sign of a dark wizard. The Gaunts all speak Parseltongue. And I can, too. How is that possible? Draco exclaimed before Neville could even express his surprise. There has never been a marriage between the Potters and the Gaunts. How is it impossible? You all grew up in the wizarding world, and perhaps you have heard of the legend of the three brothers that what he took was just a replica, but judging from Voldemort's attitude I guess there really were Deathly Hallows in history. Those are all false. The Elder Wand is just a powerful wand that was put into this story. Harry quickly refuted the rumor. I told this story to talk about the origins of Potter, Gaunt, and Longbottom. Neville's eyes widened. Could it be that my ancestors have appeared in this story? Yes, Harry agreed, and told him and Hermione and what Ryan had mentioned, the part of the inside story of the legend of the three brothers that he could reveal. The three were named Antioch, Cadmus, and Ignatus. Longbottom is the descendant of Antioch Peverell. Cadmus Peverell's descendants are Gaunt. And the descendants of Ignatus Peverell are the Potters. So it's only natural that I developed Parseltongue, said Harry. Harry, who was told in advance about his relationship with Voldemort, mistakenly believed that Parseltongue came from blood. After knowing that he was Voldemort's Horcrux, he never thought that his Parseltongue came from a fragment of Voldemort's soul. I never thought we were relatives. Neville said in surprise. Chapter 530 Draco's accurate guess. I understand, I know why Dumbledore wants to teach you personally. Draco said suddenly. All this information about yours came from Voldemort. Hearing Draco say this, Harry, who was regretting having said too much and not knowing how to make up for it, agreed in agreement. Dumbledore must have felt that the connection between you and Voldemort was too strong. He hadn't finally killed his love for Bella by making a Horcrux. Maybe he still can't forget that dark-skinned elf. He must be teaching you occlumency to prevent your mind from being taken over by Voldemort. Ginny, who was standing by, rushed to Harry and touched him anxiously. As for the other teacher, there are two possibilities, Grindelwald and the tree shepherd professor from Castrobing. Draco said confidently. How is that possible? That was the first-generation Dark Lord. Ron shook his head. I think the second guess is more likely. Now we are all tree shepherds. Perhaps there is some tree shepherd magic to teach us. This is also easy to explain. After all, with Dumbledore, who needs another teacher? Unless the teacher is a tree shepherd, he is the only one who understands this knowledge. He is responsible for teaching the five of us at the same time. Neville said after thinking about it after recovering from his surprise. You are so naive. Neville, what you said is indeed very likely. But have you ever thought about this? That is, the tree shepherd is a magic system that has been lost for a long time. It was only recently rediscovered, so it's very likely that it doesn't have any special magic. After all, tree shepherds are just a variation of wizards. There is no magic in this world that a wizard cannot learn. And haven't you ever thought about it? Who is closely related to Harry, the second-generation Dark Lord Voldemort? Only the Dark Lord can fight the Dark Lord. Even Dumbledore admitted that Grindelwald was on our side. Draco became more and more excited as he spoke, and he stood on a stone next to him and began his speech. Maybe. Ron's stomach growled. He acted extremely absent-minded. I'm only concerned with the one thing right now. That's when Mom and Dad will be back. If my mother were here, I would just ask her and she would prepare delicious pie for me. Today's Daily Prophet, said Harry suddenly. Tomorrow's Daily Prophet, and no matter how busy Mom and Dad are, they will always make time in the evening for one of them to come back at that time. We can just ask Dad or Mom directly. Why are you reading the Daily Prophet, Draco? And Neville cast worried glances at Harry when they heard this. Ginny was about to faint on Harry. You are confused. Have you all forgotten? The Daily Prophet had been cast under a variety of transmutation spells. If the news changes, the content of the newspaper will also change during the day. If it was the previous Daily Prophet, only one line of text would appear as a preview. But after Sirius bought it, I think when we find today's Daily Prophet, it will be full of reports about Mr. Dearborn, and members of the Order of the Phoenix will probably appear. Harry explained quickly, rubbing Ginny's square face to wake her up. Draco and Ron, who heard Harry's words, started running into the room. They wanted to find the Daily Prophet as soon as possible. Just as Ron and his friends were looking for the Daily Prophet, thousands of miles away, in Smith Castle and Nottingham Forest, Ryan and the others are initiating a conversation on today's Daily Prophet. Looking at the updated content in the Daily Prophet, Panino looked up at Ryan and said, Ryan, why did Voldemort kill Dearborn but didn't make it public? Ryan smiled and said, it's very simple. 1. Dearborn's death was for the purpose of making a Horcrux. Voldemort thought that the Horcrux was a very profound dark magic that no one knew about. He didn't want to expose the secret of Dumbledore's immortality just to strike him down. 2. Voldemort was actually obsessed with his Slytherin bloodline. Maybe others don't know. At the same time, Ryan thought to himself, in the original world line, if Dumbledore had not died so soon, perhaps Voldemort would have mentioned this name when he was about to have a head-on duel with Dumbledore. As for why Harry didn't say anything during the battle at the Ministry of Magic in his 5th year, it was probably because he thought that was not a suitable occasion to take down Dumbledore. However, Kate found it very strange. She had heard Ryan mention Smith and Peveril. Upon hearing this, she immediately questioned, blood relatives? Didn't you say, little brat, that killing each other among the Peverilites is taboo? In response, Ryan shrugged, took a sip of the black tea that Jack had just brewed and said, Kate, you are still too naive. Dearborn has gaunt blood on his mother's side, so he is not a Peveril at all. He didn't inherit the surname Gaunt, Potter, Longbottom, or Smith. And it's not a direct line. Just like in the Longbottom family, only Neville and Frank can be considered Peveril, and in the Potter family, those American Potters cannot be considered Peveril. Is that so? Kate agreed, but soon she became excited again, as if she remembered something. Wait, Ryan, I have another question. Do you still remember Jackson, who could transform other people's minds to gain immortality? It just occurred to me that the old man's home address is 67 Privet Drive. Has he ever thought of attacking Harry Potter? Penelope on the side also silently repeatedly. I thought you both had noticed before. Privet Drive is Harry Potter's address. This should be clear information to you. Ryan said speechlessly. Penelope has a photographic memory. Harry Potter is not familiar with us. Kate curled her lips. Harry, Dumbledore and the others. Penelope said. Okay, let's not talk about this for now. The old man did think about attacking Harry. Because he believed that Voldemort was dead, he could easily become Harry and obtain the Potter family's property and honor. But it was clear that he couldn't get close to Harry with his malicious intent. Chapter 531 The Caradoc Dearborn Story. While Ryan values Harry and the others, he didn't want Penelope and the others to know this reason, or he didn't want anyone to know. He might never tell him that he was a time traveler. Perhaps only thousands of years later, he will be unable to hold back and tell others as he thought about it. Ryan's eyes focused on the Daily Prophet. His friend's topic, Harry Potter, was also looking at the Daily Prophet. Founder death, Alpheus Doge. Founder, Emmeline Vance Fabian Pruitt. Death, Frank Longbottom Gideon Pruitt. Founder death, Hester Jones James Potter. Death, Lily Potter. Death, Marlene McKinnon. Death, Minerva McGonagall Mundungus Fletcher Peter Pettigrew. Defection death, Remus Lupin. Rubes Hagrid. Sirius Black. Sturgis Podmore. Is this the list of members of the Order of the Phoenix? Why is my father's name not on it? Ron suddenly asked. You do not know? This is the list when the Order of the Phoenix was first established. At that time, Mr. Weasley did not join the Order of the Phoenix because of you. Although the Order of the Phoenix is a secret organization, but for the Death Eaters it was high profile at the time, meant to attract the attention of the Death Eaters. The first generation members of the Order of the Phoenix either came from prominent families. The Bones and McKinnon families were the most powerful families in the wizarding world at the time. Either work at Hogwarts, by Dumbledore's side, which is safe, for others have special identities that make it easier to contact other forces. Lupin, Werewolf, Mundungus, Grey Forces. Others are frontline personnel who are in danger, such as Neville's parents, Moody, or have no attachments. No living family, like Dearborn people like your parents, Harry, Sirius Black, and Peter Pettigrew are exceptions. In fact, it can be seen from the initial composition of the members of the Order of the Phoenix that they were not candidate members from the beginning. They all joined at the strong request of your father and Sirius at the time. My father and the others had no idea that they would openly join the Order of the Phoenix. They have obvious weaknesses. It's not that frontline personnel like Aurors are at risk themselves. They could obviously be like Mr. Weasley, without being a member of the Order of the Phoenix, but still do the same things as members of the Order of the Phoenix. This is more sensitive. As they are purebloods, they will not be targeted by Death Eaters. I think. Draco began to trail off. Think my dad and Sirius are fools, don't you? They do. Sirius told me that they were very enthusiastic at that time. Sirius Black implicated his family, who were on the Death Eater side. My dad forgot that my mom had Muggle relatives. They also didn't care that Peter Pettigrew had an elderly mother. They could have joined the Order of the Phoenix without being open about it, saying one thing and doing another. This is how purebloods have always developed. By the end of the war, it won't be too late for them to reveal their membership of the Order of the Phoenix. Harry looked newspaper. Albus Dumbledore, I still remember it. It was 1956, the year when Headmaster Armando Dippet left office. I was still the professor of Transfiguration at that time. I met Caradoc in my first year Transfiguration class. He is an orphan, speaks Parseltongue, is extremely talented, and has a unique understanding of magic. His characteristics remind me of another person I don't want to mention. Fortunately, as a Gryffindor, he is brave, kind, and willing to stand up for the weak. So, even after half a year, when I became the principal, I was still willing to teach this poor child magic in private to prevent him from going astray like the other person. In 1970, I founded a secret organization, the Order of the Phoenix. The kid joined it despite my objections. But apparently, a secret organization is not a secret at all to its enemies. Soon after its founding, it disappeared. Many people say that he may have relied on him Parseltongue and blood relationship to join the person I don't want to mention. Voldemort. He did not appear after Voldemort's defeat because he fled Britain or after being killed. It was not made public for the sake of my reputation, but I know this kid isn't like that. But I hope it's just like the previous groundless suspicion. This way at least he's still alive. This morning, I finally got news from him once again. I hated my keen intuition. He certainly didn't betray, guarded the secrets of the Order until his death. Alastair Moody, I still remember Caradoc. Everyone knows that I am a suspicious and annoying person. You can imagine how I would react when I met someone who had been hiding an unknown talent, Parseltwang, and hadn't revealed it until graduation. I have always acted as a monitor for him. I investigated him and followed him. Suspected that he was a spy for Voldemort. Even after I had revealed almost every piece of his miserable childhood to him, covered in blood, he was still smiling. I still remember that smile, it was so sunny and so innocent. I still remember his words, "Does Mr. Moody believe me now? Great, I have long wanted to be friends with you." Everyone knows what happened later. After he mysteriously disappeared, the Order of the Phoenix began to leak information continuously. Many people said that he betrayed Pettigrew, someone with obvious weaknesses who shouldn't have joined us in the first place. Today, I can finally take him home. Minerva McGonagall, though I didn't realize he was a Parseltongue until today. But I'm pretty sure he's a nice little guy. It doesn't matter whether he knows the victim or not. Whenever he knew of an injustice, he was always the first to speak out. Well, he's a really nice guy. But why haven't we heard about him before? After reading the entire Daily Prophet, Ron was very confused. Chapter 532, Sirius's Gift. Caradoc Dearborn is undoubtedly a legendary figure. He should have been very famous among the Gryffindor students at that time. And he was also Dumbledore's secret student. How come no one has mentioned such a person? Ron was very confused about this. Isn't this normal? Do you still know the McKinnon family? Have you ever heard of Dorcas Meadows? Draco said sarcastically. No. Ron shook his head. I heard from Hagrid. And I saw Marlene McKinnon in the photo Ryan gave me, Harry said. When he and Hermione were discussing whether it was just for Neville to want to kill the Death Eaters himself, Ryan projected photos of the first generation of members of the Order of the Phoenix in the air, pointed at the people in them, and mentioned their deeds one by one, referring to those members of the Order of the Phoenix who died. Ryan has photos of the first generation of members of the Order of the Phoenix who died. Neville looked at Harry curiously. There is such a photo in his house. Yes, I was there at the time. Let me think. Well, it was after Charms class. We were learning the tickling charm at the time, and our headmaster mentioned the disappearance of Azkaban during class. If you hadn't walked fast, Neville would have probably seen it too. Damn. I should have noticed then that my dad wasn't in the photo. Ron slapped his head in annoyance. Draco's face turned red with anger. Hey. Have you forgotten my question? Ron, look at me. The McKinnon family I am talking about was the most prominent wizarding family in the wizarding world at that time, except for the Bones family. And Dorcas Meadows, who had just appeared in the paper. She was a very powerful witch. It was Voldemort himself who killed her. Now, Ron, you can probably understand why you haven't heard of Mr. Dearborn's name the world. Just like Gund, the descendant of Slytherin, who would have thought of it if Harry hadn't mentioned it? That's different. Ron's ears blushed. They are heroes. Sacrificed their life for peace. But even I have never heard of their deeds in our family. Harry, who was standing by, consoled them. They represent painful memories. Mention it when the family is in a happy mood. Just like my mom and dad, even though I'm famous, I'm still here. They are not often mentioned. Yes, Ron. And look, Ginny pointed to the Daily Prophet. Aren't there the names of those heroes? Look at the preview again. Next week, the brave Marlene McKinnon. Order of the Phoenix in the future. It's long overdue. Let everyone know what the Order of the Phoenix did. Draco waved his fist excitedly. Thousands of miles away in Smith Castle, Kate was very surprised and said with her big silver eyes, what a coincidence, they are also reading the Daily Prophet. But why is this Malfoy so excited? His father is a Death Eater, and his upbringing has made him two-faced. How come you're more excited than Weasley? Obtaining a new one will inevitably experience a very drastic change in self-identity. In this constant psychological suggestion, the recognition and behavior of one's new identity will often reach an extreme level. And have you noticed that even though Draco's family is now on Dumbledore's side, Ron still often inadvertently mentions Malfoy's past? So Draco will express his approval of everything that is happening now more fiercely. And he expressed deep disgust for the conservative and corrupt purebloods, the evil and stupid Death Eaters. All in all, Draco's behavior was perfectly normal. He saw the impact of this simple act vividly. First and Second Wizarding Wars, members of the Order of the Phoenix led by example and made many contributions to the wizarding world. But why is it still so easy for the Ministry to take credit for the achievements of these heroes? On the one hand, there is the decline of the Bones and McKinnon families, two powerful families in the Order of the Phoenix. In the Ministry of Magic, Amelia Bones is the only one left in the Bones family. Although she holds a high position, she cannot support the team alone. Not a single living person was left in the McKinnon family. On the other hand, Dumbledore was unwilling to come into contact with power and move into the Ministry of Magic. Furthermore, the Order of the Phoenix's deeds have never been publicized by mainstream media such as the Daily Prophet. Everyone knows that they are great, but the people in the magical world have no idea how great they are or what contributions they have made. It was under these circumstances that Fudge's Ministry of Magic claimed the honors that the heroes did not want and regarded it as his own political achievement. But it's different now. As long as this action can continue, the justice and contribution of the Order of the Phoenix will never be occupied or shaken by the insects. How could Draco not be excited and ecstatic when he thought the Order of the Phoenix was justice and his future? Ryan explained. So, this is a good move? Who decided this move? Kate asked curiously. Not necessarily. Once the term Society of the Phoenix gained popularity among the people, it actually became equivalent to a political group in politics. Is already if the old members of the Order of the Phoenix die and the name is passed down, it will deteriorate sooner or later. If I'm not mistaken, Dumbledore's last words were probably to disband the Order of the Phoenix. Ryan shrugged. Then he continued, as for the person who decided this action? It was someone you would never expect, Sirius Black. Kate and Penelope's eyes widened. In their eyes, who knew a lot of the inside story, Sirius had always been a reckless guy. Ryan saw their confusion and smiled. After all, he was educated by a pureblood. Didn't you just hear it? Now he could even admit his mistakes, and even the mistakes of James Potter, who was more important than him. Blake himself is not actually stupid. He's just spoiled. His parents seemed heartless, kicking him out of the house as an adult. But did you notice, that was after he joined the Order of the Phoenix? Before this, he had always been the candidate for the head of the Black family. The education he received was also the education of the head of a pure-blood family that had been passed down for thousands of years. Sirius now has the same weaknesses as his parents, Harry Potter and his brother Regulus. He can only mature. The politicization of the Order of the Phoenix was the gift he gave to his brother and godson 100 years later. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 533 The Five Founders of the Order of the Phoenix. After hearing Ryan's words, Kate seemed to remember her long-lost Dumbledore fan account password. Wait, Dumbledore is indeed different from before, and no longer fears power like a snake. But he would certainly not allow the politicization of his groups. No matter how mature and educated Sirius is, how could he deceive Dumbledore? Penelope's heart skipped a beat. It's over. I guess the mind game is about to start again. As the person who has known Ryan the longest, Penelope knows very well that beneath Ryan's handsome appearance, there is a heart smaller than a needle hole. After Kate somehow revealed herself as a Dumbledore fan. In the mind game, Gandalf appears. He even deliberately provoked Kate several times, arousing her competitive spirit. The result is that Gandalf, who has the face of Dumbledore, is beheaded by Kate many times. Kate no longer kept going back and forth between Dumbledore's left and Dumbledore's right all day, and there's Snape. After he accidentally offended Ryan, he would receive photos of Lily Evans and James Potter loving each other every holiday. Penelope used to think that this was virtualized by Ryan using magic. But now she realized that these were photos Ryan took secretly when he traveled through time to the past. Does this matter? Just because I offended Ryan, I killed him so cruelly. And Ron. Because Ron was outspoken, Ryan also responded. Those news in the Daily Prophet are just small cases. Penelope knew that Ryan had done one more thing, that was to have multiple subconscious conversations with Ron. The conversation went something like, Ron Weasley, you have the same love for Harry Potter that a man has for a woman. There are many such examples. Such thoughts flashed through Penelope's mind, and she looked at Ryan. Of course. Kate said without hesitation. Penelope noticed that the Chuan mark on Ryan's forehead was becoming more obvious. He almost gritted his teeth and said, very good, this is indeed what you think. But Kate, Didn't you read the note after the obituary for Caradoc Dearborn in the Daily Prophet? Albus Dumbledore, founder. Aberforth Dumbledore, founder. Edgar Bones, founder, dead. Alpheus Doge, founder. Gideon Pruitt, founder, dead. The 5 of them founded the Order of the Phoenix together, and the others joined at their call or were forced to join after hearing the news. This can't be true. Moment Dumbledore fan Kate is completely dead. Although Kate said it was impossible, she really believed what Ryan said in her heart. Penelope, who was standing by, noticed that Ryan's smile became brighter and the skin on his forehead stretched out. Very good, Kate. Let me introduce you to the other founders besides Dumbledore. Kate, do you know why so many purebloods joined Voldemort? The answer is 3 wizarding families: Bones, McKinnon, and Pruitt. Their influence in the wizarding world is from strong to weak in the order I just mentioned. They are close to Muggles, but unlike the Weasleys, they do not lose their pure blood reserve. Other wizarding families, such as the Crouches, could rival their power but were limited to a single line of succession. Although the Weasley family had a large population and could be compared with them in this respect, they had a very bad reputation in the wizarding world and were regarded as traitors to the purebloods, so they could not occupy high positions. The 2 founders of the Order of the Phoenix, Edgar Bones and Gideon Pruitt, are the next generation heirs of Bones and Pruitt respectively. With them, the Order of the Phoenix can get the support of the Ministry of Magic. Ryan paused, because Kate raised her hand. But Dumbledore himself is also very influential. Ryan said calmly, influence can't be used to make a living. But the 3 major families can do it. And there has always been a rift between Dumbledore and the Ministry of Magic. Dumbledore was also Professor of Defense Against the Dark Arts at Hogwarts from 1910 to 1927, when Grindelwald first appeared. The Ministry's representative, Torquil Travers, asked Dumbledore to confront Grindelwald. Dumbledore refused, and he was fitted with warning rings and banned from teaching defense against the dark arts. Although Dumbledore was reinstated after the Battle of Lestrange's tomb, it can be seen from this that the Ministry of Magic was wary of a powerful wizard. Voldemort and Dumbledore. Maybe there would be no need for Harry Potter. Voldemort would just find a place to hide. I plan to wait until Dumbledore dies before I come out again. Okay, what about the other 2 founders? Kate asked wearily. As for Alpheus Doge, he is an old friend of Dumbledore, a student in the same class, and a wizard who almost went on the graduation trip with Dumbledore. Ryan emphasized the pronunciation of the word wizard. Seeing Kate and Penelope's mouths open in surprise, Ryan continued happily, he is to Dumbledore like Harry is to Ron. Dumbledore was far more than just a friend to him. Because he had suffered from dragonpox, his face was covered with pimples and his skin was blue. At that time, only Dumbledore was willing to approach him. During these 7 years, they developed a deep friendship. If Dumbledore had not met Grindelwald, perhaps he would have ended up with him. Fate plays such a trick on people. Although Alpheus was ugly, he had his company for 7 years and they kept in touch through letters. Unable to travel with Alpheus, Grindelwald, handsome, talented, and like-minded as Dumbledore, broke into the village. Argumentation fruit for the monthly ticket and other classmates for the recommendation and subscription. Chapter 534 Aberforth Dumbledore. But Alpheus Doge has his own problems, doesn't he? If he had not chosen to travel at that time, but to accompany Dumbledore, how could Dumbledore be taken advantage of by Grindelwald? He is too confident. He thinks Dumbledore is indispensable. 7 years have passed, and he is no longer the shy little boy who grew up with Dumbledore because of dragonpox. Kate, a fan of Dumbledore, is online again. Seeing Ryan's frown appeared again, Penelope decided to draw more firepower for Kate. Alpheus Doge himself is not good enough. Compared with the Grindelwald, from appearance to knowledge, no one of him can compare to Grindelwald. And he never got into Dumbledore's heart. At that time, Dumbledore was an ambitious man like Grindelwald who wanted to conquer Muggles through magic. A heart-to-heart conversation is all it takes to be together for life. Seeing that Ryan was about to lose his temper, Penelope added, "You were supposed to talk about why Alpheus Doge could become the founder, but why did you end up talking about his relationship with Dumbledore?" Ryan clenched his fists and said unhappily, "Why not? If Harry Potter creates an organization, will Ron Weasley be absent? Almost being Dumbledore's lover was enough. Especially since he has been waiting for Dumbledore and has not married yet. Next. Kate rolled her eyes. Even if she mentioned Merlin's beard 10,000 times, it would not be able to show the speechlessness in her heart for this explanation. Yes, Albus Dumbledore, The disgusting guy who was caught playing with sheep. Although this custom does exist in England, but, he and Dumbledore are clearly enemies. How come he is also a member of the Order of the Phoenix? Penelope was too busy to amuse Ryan's attention. Although she was not a fan of Dumbledore, she also couldn't understand how such a great man like Dumbledore could have such a brother. I remember that Dumbledore and his friends grew up in Fertile Plains, which was their hometown. They later moved to Godric's Hollow. Kate, who had no idea she had been to the gates of hell, corrected Penelope's mistake. Fertile Plains is also a village in England. Penelope said unhappily. She was drawing so much attention to Kate, but she acted like she didn't notice. Fiorin is not here now. If Ryan was really angry, not only will there be more characters like Gandalf with Dumbledore's face in mind games, Kate probably won't be able to get out of bed these days. Okay, be quiet. Albus Dumbledore is not a person with connections like Alpheus. When you mention him, you may only think of the story of him being caught playing with sheep. Even as a young boy, when Albus Dumbledore was fascinated by the tale of the three brothers, he was obsessed with Crumb the Dirty Goat. But he is Dumbledore after all. Although he is not as knowledgeable as his brother, he is very good at fighting. After entering Hogwarts, he also behaved very independently, preferring to solve problems through duels rather than dialogue. This laid also the foundation for Albus Fu's superb dueling skills. So much so that he could fight back when Grindelwald cast the Cruciatus curse on him even though he hadn't graduated from Hogwarts yet, and it became a three-way battle between him, Albus Dumbledore and Grindelwald, and he was not at a disadvantage. Ryan exclaimed. Is that goat guy so powerful? Kate said with disgust. He was really disliked. When he was at Hogwarts, he used a wand to fight almost all over Hogwarts. Even Albus Dumbledore actually disliked him a little. As I'm sure you all know, in 1982 Aberforth was prosecuted by the Wizengamot for misbehaving with magic on a goat. This incident was reported all over the newspapers. Do you remember what Albus Dumbledore said when he was interviewed? Ryan said with a sly smile. I know. Kate raised her hands confidently, imitating Dumbledore's words perfectly. My brother, at all, and he is not hiding. However, I don't know if he did this out of bravery. I'm not sure Albus Ford can read. Very good. Ryan clapped his hands with a forced smile. Penelope was worried about Kate. Finally, he couldn't bear to ask, Ryan, why did Aberforth create the Order of the Phoenix with his annoying brother? That's a good question, Ryan said. Penelope breathed a sigh of relief. Ryan's attention was indeed amused from Kate. Ryan stared at Penelope and said, Penelope, but what we want to talk about is how Aberforth deserves the position of the founder of the Order of the Phoenix, right? But, since you want to know, I can mention it in passing. The simple answer is that Aberforth just didn't get along with Dumbledore and Alpheus Doge. In addition to being Albus Dumbledore's younger brother, Albus Fawkes also has another identity, the owner of the Hogshead Inn. Many Hogwarts students like to come here, even though it is small, dark and very dirty. The wizards here will wrap themselves up tightly, and all kinds of people in the wizarding world will trade here. Ryan, you're understating it. As soon as you enter the Hogshead, you can smell the strong smell of sheep, and the bay windows and the floor are covered with centuries of dirt. Kate looked like she wanted to vomit. She recalled her miserable experience at the Hogshead Inn in her third year. Then why was Aberforth able to become the founder of the Order of the Phoenix? Penelope asked. Didn't I tell you? Ryan looked very surprised, but seeing that Penelope and Kate were still confused, he could only continue, okay, then I'll mention it. Albus Ford's identity as the owner of the Hogshead institution actually makes him qualified. The Hogshead is a very old bar, a creation of ancient witchcraft and goblins. That's why, in 1612, it was the headquarters of the Goblin Rebellion. It is a living house that only a powerful wizard can control. But at the same time, its owner would be bound to the Hogshead bar and could not leave for long. The dirt was not just simple dirt, but the magic dust accumulated over the years. However, that sheep smell is not. I guess Aberforth himself hasn't changed his hobbies yet. Ryan shrugged. Isn't it normal for the Dumbledore family to become extinct? Both the older and younger brothers are abnormal. Chapter 535 Living Bar. After simply complaining about the Dumbledore family in his heart, Ryan continued, this is also the main reason why all those idiots in the wizarding world like to do business in the Hogshead Bar. As long as they abide by the rules set by the Pig's Head Inn, consume at the Pig's Head Inn and cover their faces, they will be protected by the Pig's Head Inn. So, Even Aurors would not go to the Hogshead to arrest people. Because they can't. In 1718, Damocles Rowell, the second British Minister for Magic, led a group of people into the Hogshead, and then the Hogshead came to life and transformed into a giant wild boar, which Shivan the Fiend Fire had no effect on in the end. Damocles Rowell had no choice but to run away in shame and bury the matter, so the Hogshead became taboo. That's why even though Nocturne Alley has been reformed, the Hogshead is still the only choice for the grey forces in the wizarding world. Kate on the side was still immersed in the story. But Penelope's eyes widened. Ryan, is that what I think? You didn't mention the owner of the Hogshead in just now. Did it set all these rules by itself, and was it also the one who defeated Rowell? As expected of you, Penelope. It's pretty much what you'd guess. But the Hogshead wasn't always like this. I guess you all have learned about the Goblin Rebellion from the nasty history of magic. Their leader, Lala the Scruffy, was not captured as recorded in the nasty history of magic. Instead, in desperation, knowing defeat, he and his followers used ancient bloody goblin magic to become one with the Hogshead. Hogshead in from returning to its bloody side, the great wizard established rules and passed them down from generation to generation. The content of the law is, first, the owner of the Hogshead Inn cannot leave the bar for more than 2 days. To suppress the instinct of the goblins of the Hogshead Inn. Second, the customers of the Hogshead Inn are advised to hide their faces. Pig's Head must make a purchase. The Pig's Head is a bar and needs to operate normally so that it can forget its bloody side. Fourth, the owner of the Pig's Head pub will drive away those who do not consume. Same as above. Fifth, fighting is not allowed in the Pig's Head pub, except for the boss. People who fight will be regarded as enemies by the Pig's Head pub. Sixth, the owner of the Hogshead Inn needs to inherit the throne and must be a powerful wizard. Same explanation as the first one. Mundungus Fletcher of the Order of the Phoenix was a victim of these rules. He is actually a Aberforth's man, acting as a broker to handle those shady transactions. But because Mundungus was too stingy and relied on Aberforth's relationship, he never spent any money in the bar. He was eventually regarded as an enemy by the Hogshead bar. In order to protect his men, Aberforth had no choice but to ban Mundungus from entering his bar for life. Now, Aberforth can only communicate with Mundungus outside the pub and occasionally buy his stolen goods. How stingy is this guy? The subordinate of the owner of the Pig's Head bar, who is half an insider, was actually regarded as an enemy by the Pig's Head bar. How many times has he run away without paying? Kate's ears twitched, and she suspected that what she heard was false. However, Penelope was curious about the Hogshead Inn. Is it the same as Smith's Castle? As Ryan's wife, she also knew the existence of the Lord God. It coordinates everything in the entire castle. Living in this castle, when you are in the study on the top floor and want to quickly get to the first floor, after calling out to the Lord God, you will appear on the first floor after you take the next step. Hearth of Smith's Castle is a poltergeist of unprecedented power. In the entire wizarding world, only Peeves can rival it. The Hogshead bar is nothing more than a strange creation that is semi-parasitic on every bar owner. Compared to Smith Castle, its only outstanding feature is its strangeness. Ryan blinked with silver eyes and looked at Penelope with disappointment. He couldn't imagine that Penelope would ask such a ridiculous question. Semi-parasitic? Penelope asked calmly. After so much time, she has long been accustomed to Ryan's eyes. Maybe that's a bit discouraging. But in terms of wisdom, she is far behind Ryan. I call this lifestyle of its parasitism. But because it supplies itself with power, it is called semi-parasitic. Ryan shrugged. By the way, how did that sheep-playing guy become the owner of the Hogshead bar? Kate looked straight at Ryan with her cute big eyes. It's too rude to play with sheep guys. Although he did. But there is no empirical evidence. The Wizengamot at the time could only use the fact that Aberforth's physical patroness was a goat and that he cast a spell on the goats to make their horns curl up and look cleaner as evidence to prove his dirty behavior. Leon said. He looked at Kate's round face that was about to swell up due to impatience. He sighed and said, Okay, I'll tell you. There is nothing strange about this story to hold the place. Kate raised her hand. Isn't there a Hogshead bar? Does it need the boss help? If the boss takes action in advance, it can prevent the Hogshead bar from becoming a goblin and turning into the evil, bloody wild boar. If we leave the Pig's Head bar alone, will customers be willing to come in the future? Who would be willing to eat, drink, trade and have fun in the belly of a beast? Ryan looked at Kate with the same eyes he had just used to look at Penelope. Kate obviously had no reaction either. She was shameless and was the one who adapted to Ryan's questioning look the fastest. Okay, I'll continue. Just now I was saying that Aberforth could hold his own. But because he cares about his sister, he has never agreed to the request of the owner of the Hogshead pub to become the next owner. Same as your first impression of the Hogshead. Aberforth couldn't bear to imagine his sister living in such a dirty place. Even though the Hogshead Inn didn't smell like mutton at that time. Ryan paused, took a cup of hot black tea that suddenly appeared in the air, blew on it, and took a sip comfortably. Chapter 536 The Heir of the Pig's Head Bar. The black tea that suddenly appeared just now was made by the Lord God. The Lord God is so convenient. Because the main god was refined by Ryan, he's equivalent to his clone. Therefore, as long as Ryan thought about it, the Lord God could immediately provide him with the most perfect and favorite black tea. But Ryan doesn't do this often. In consideration of the poor self-esteem of the house elf Jack. This time I just had a great chat with Kate and Penelope. His favorite thing is being a teacher. Of course, the student has to be his wife, or a character that interests him and has appeared in the 7 Harry Potter novels. So, even though he thought Ron was too talkative, he still looked at himself, who had been moved by Ron's behavior in the novel, and picked out a suitable magic book for him in Moon City. There is no need to say much about Harry and Neville. As for Ginny, the magic she learned was just a gift. Ryan just felt that since the other two already had it, it would be inappropriate not to give it to her. Because Ginny's behavior in the original world line made Ryan feel a little uncomfortable, and her appearance did not conform to Ryan's aesthetic. After taking the last sip of tea, Ryan put aside the above complicated thoughts. The empty teacup disappeared into the air. The Pig's Head Bar. After his brother became the headmaster of Hogwarts, the former boss officially made Aberforth the owner of the Hogshead because of this bonus point. Bonus points. Kate tilted her head and placed her index finger seductively on her lips, with a puzzled look on her face. You don't think the headmaster of Hogwarts doesn't know that the Hogshead is special? The secret of the Pig's Head Bar is also information that every principal knows after taking office. Just like the secret of Peeves, and the news about the giant farm beneath Hogwarts. Ryan rolled his eyes. But he couldn't help but glance at Kate. This guy just spends all day seducing a gentleman like him. If it wasn't Kate. Maybe he's still a single, innocent boy. You really deserved a beating. Penelope looked at Ryan, who had a righteous look on his face, not knowing what he was thinking. She just felt that Ryan seemed to be offended by this. Nothing. Ryan closed his eyes subconsciously. In order to change the subject, Ryan quickly said, "Oh, right. There's one more thing I forgot to mention." At that time, Dumbledore had just become the headmaster. Aberforth was still a waiter. At that time, Voldemort wanted to hide his Horcruxes in Hogwarts and was applying for the position of Professor of Defense against the Dark Arts. He and his servant temporarily rested in the Pig's Head Bar. So, before Voldemort arrived at Hogwarts to meet Dumbledore, Dumbledore knew about Voldemort's arrival through Aberforth. And there was information about those servants who followed Voldemort. To be honest, when Dumbledore made it clear, Voldemort was really scared. He also boasted about his good relationship with the waiter at the Hogshead Bar. Him? Tisk, I know that, I was there too. It must be the Room of Requirement, and it contains a Horcrux made from Ravenclaw's diadem. Kate said proudly. Ryan's expression softened. And Penelope's expression is wonderful. While Ryan was trying to change the subject, he actually thought of testing whether Kate was still a fan of Dumbledore. This bastard. No wonder he can become a master of time management. Yet, not bad. Kate, you are awesome. Ryan said with a double meaning and hugged Kate into his arms. Isn't Albus Ford old too? So who will be the next owner of the Hogshead? You know, Hogwarts already has a vice principal, Professor McGonagall. Kate raised her little head and looked at Ryan. It has not been decided yet. Aberforth had 3 candidates in total. You may also be familiar with these 3 names. Severus Snape, Remus Lupin, Mundungus Fletcher. Kate, Penelope, think about it, why are they 3? Ryan said with a smile. I know. Professor Snape must have it because of his dignity and hygiene habits. Kate broke away from Ryan and almost jumped onto the carpet. Oh? Hygiene habits. Ryan couldn't help but become curious. Kate's answer was completely different from what I expected. Hey. I know all the gossip about the professors. After much investigation and research, I have learned one thing. That is, Snape didn't just have greasy hair. He has the same bad hygiene habits as crying boy Rocky. His pants are all black, But he doesn't change them. Kate grinned evilly. Is it true? Penelope looked at Ryan. It is true. Snape's bad habit was no secret. He was once hung in the air by James Potter with a hook, revealing his blackened pants. It is worth mentioning that the magic of overhead kick was invented by him himself. But Kate, your answer is wrong. Aberforth saw wrong himself in Snape. Licking his wounds like a lone wolf, fighting James Potter or the four robbers alone. But on the other hand, because of Snape's excessive desire to stand out, he was excluded by Aberforth. Because he definitely can't sit still. And also joined the Death Eaters. Ryan replied. I have it. Professor Lupin must have thought it was because he was a werewolf. A person on the fringes of magical society. Even if he can't sit still, his identity can only keep him in the bar. After listening to Ryan's analysis of Snape, Penelope guessed confidently. That's right. As expected of you, Penelope. Unlike some people, guess what the black pants are? They don't like to be clean. Ryan squinted his eyes and said sarcastically to Kate. Kate, who was standing by, was so angry that her face turned red. Let me add that apart from all this, Lupin is also very good and he's also a prefect. But because of his identity as a werewolf, Lupin can become the Order of the Phoenix's spy among werewolves. Plus Lupin's own wish, he wants to go back to Hogwarts to work. Also, Lupin is not single now. So he was also rejected by Aberforth. Ryan added. It's the last one. Mundungus is mine, no one can snatch it from me. Kate wanted to avenge her previous shame. She almost shouted, Mundun's advantage is that he is single. And he's always been hanging around the Hog's Head. You could even say he grew up there. Kate looked at Ryan with hope. Sorry. You guessed right. Ryan said in a regretful tone, almost scaring Kate. After Kate had revenge on Ryan by punching him taken in the chest with her little fist, Ryan finally said, but unfortunately, Mundun's own magic level is too poor. So he was rejected as well. Chapter 537 New Goal. Kate believed Ryan's answer but was not satisfied. I thought it was because he was too stingy that the Hog's Head Inn regarded him as an enemy. Ryan touched his black, silky hair and glanced at Kate. Of course not. The owner of the Hog's Head Inn has a dominant position in the selection of the successor. The opinion of the Hog's Head Inn itself is not important. Wait, Professor Snape is now a member of the Order of the Phoenix? And after Harry's mother's death, he probably had nothing to live by, except Harry. Is it true that Professor Snape is not worthy of Aberforth's approval now? You have to know that Snape is a reclusive, gloomy man like a big bat. He was also a Death Eater. I think he is very suitable for the role of the owner of the Pig's Head Bar. Penelope said she decided to teach Masaaki for their potions class. Snape has too strong a tendency to self-destruct, and he is now Albus Dumbledore through and through. So whether it is Snape now or in the past, Albus Ford feels that it is not appropriate. Ryan shook his head. What about the succession of the next owner of the Pig's Head Inn? Kate asked anxiously. It was as if the Hog's Head Bar was her home. As the owner of the Hog's Head Inn, as long as he doesn't resign, he can live forever in the bar like a ghost. But that was not Aberforth's choice. He still has to go find his sister. Ryan rolled his eyes at Kate. What about the previous bosses? They just gave up their immortality like that. Penelope was a little curious about this. Of course, they all voluntarily gave up the eternal life they gained by living in symbiosis with a Hog's Head. Because this kind of eternal life is painful. A prisoner's eternal life? After its natural lifespan came to an end and it was extended by the Pig's Head Bar, the master-servant relationship between the owner and the bar was reversed. Although the bar will continue with its old rules because it does not want to return to chaos. But a servant is a servant, and the boss can no longer leave the bar for more than an hour. If you exceed that limit, you will be forcibly summoned back. As a wizard who is good enough to conquer the bar, he would not choose to live this way. Ryan replied. Since Aberforth, like his predecessors, doesn't want to live forever, how do we solve the issue of succession? Kate still kept dwelling on the issue of succession. As a wizard, Albus Ford has a long natural lifespan, almost another 100 years. Moreover, he has already set his sights on a new target, a goal he was happy with among my class of students. Ryan smiled mysteriously. Who is it? Very big, unimaginable gift. Ryan drew a circle around his body with both hands, vividly gesturing the size of the gift. Ah, you can't just guess. Kate, who wanted to rely on rotate memorization and try all the names of wizards in Ryan's class one by one, lowered her head dejectedly. Although Penelope didn't say anything, she was also disappointed. When it comes to memory, that happens to be her strong point. Her magical transformation ability is a photographic memory. But the next second, Kate and Penelope sparked a spark of fighting spirit. Kate's eyes glanced at Penelope. Now they both confirmed it. In their last year at Hogwarts, what was important to them was no longer the NEWT final wizard exam, but this gift. Have time to complete it. I decided not to watch it for now to avoid adding to my worries. As for what he was busy with, it had something to do with where Dearborn's body went. It has returned to where it belongs. Raymond Misness Cemetery had just bought. It serves as a cemetery for heroes who died in the fight for peace during the First and Second Wizarding Wars, those who have no family members or whose entire families have died. In the Order of the Phoenix, Benji Fenwick, whose body was only partially found, and Dorcas Meadows, who was killed by Voldemort himself, were also moved here to rest in peace with Dearborn. As for other members of the Order of the Phoenix who had their own ancestral graves, such as Marlene McKinnon, they were not moved here. Almost in the magical world strongly supported this move. This is also related to the continuous commemoration and eulogy of the fallen members of the Order of the Phoenix in the Daily Prophet during this period. Among the members of the Order of the Phoenix, Moody was so moved that he couldn't help crying. She cried and said she wanted to reserve a bed in the cemetery in advance. Hagrid was also very moved when he heard this, but in the end he chose to be buried with his father after his death rather than in the cemetery. In short, Harry and his friends traveled all over the UK with the adults to build this cemetery. Harry regretted it now. Why should I join this long journey given Ron's temperament? Although choosing a site, selecting materials, and being responsible for letters from wizards across the country are all very interesting. Even their mode of transportation, a flying prop in the shape of a Norwegian ridgeback, is fun. This hit Draco's G-spot hard. The moment this dragon descended upon the burrow, Draco, who had originally looked reluctant but had only joined this journey for the sake of Harry and Ron, immediately changed his expression desperate, and then decided that if he had the chance, he must go to Romania and even immigrate there. Thinking of this, Harry couldn't help laughing again. However, he didn't have time to reminisce now. The new teacher is not an opportunity, but a calamity that hinders the resurrection ceremony. Damn it. Only 2 weeks left. Harry looked desperate. What made him even more desperate was that the disaster might be Dumbledore. What should I do? Chapter 538, Harry releases his desire for destruction? Some people become calm when facing danger or great pressure. Such people are often called heroes after they successfully overcome danger and help others at the same time. And Harry is that kind of person. This time, he wasn't doing it for anyone else. But even so, Harry quickly woke up from his despair. The mirror fell to the hard floor and shattered into pieces. At the same moment, Ginny pushed open the door, just in time to see Harry disappear and the mirror shatter. And in the mirror world, in the ruins of Godric's Hollow, Harry was sitting cross-legged in the room that belonged to him when he was a baby. Only here can he feel the loss most intuitively. Abandon your present happiness. What to think? Why does it have to be before school? Is the new teacher a disaster? Will my act of resurrecting my mother be discovered? Will it be blocked? Could it be that my magical power after transformation can cover up all this? Wait, there is another way. Refuse the exclusive teaching of Dumbledore and the unknown professor. Harry was slightly tempted at the thought, but immediately shook his head. If this is possible, why is it not written in the taskbar? Would this arouse suspicion from Dumbledore or the professor? Well, this can only be the last resort. I still need to think of a legitimate reason to reject Dumbledore and the mysterious professor. Harry breathed a sigh of relief, looked nostalgically at the strangely familiar layout around him, and closed his eyes again. Next, he needs to recall what he has learned according to the prompts on the taskbar. At this moment, he wished he was as uneducated as Ron. Extensive knowledge and extensive reading have become the most insurmountable walls to complete this task. In the real world, in the garden, Ginny was pacing anxiously. I just saw Harry go to the mirror world, but he has never been so anxious. He didn't even bother with the mirror that went in, letting it fall directly to the ground. Ron on the side waved his hand nonchalantly. Didn't you know that Harry was a little weird before? I always unconsciously want to be intimate with you. And it's not just that. I noticed that Harry was secretly playing with the pudding in the room before. I clearly heard him cast hundreds of repair spells on the pudding that had been abused. This shows what? In addition to his lust, Harry also has a strong desire for destruction. Maybe he went to the mirror world just to release his inner desire for destruction. Ginny, don't worry, Harry will return to his old self sooner or later. Just like when Neville came, he no longer suddenly pulled you over for intimacy. Soon he will stop mistreating poor Pudding. Her enhanced bad spirit curse on Ron. Draco stopped her. He looked at Ron, his expression very serious. He knew Ron would never say shit about Harry. He must have discovered something to say this. Although it was a bit disgusting to say this, Draco noticed that Ron paid the most attention to Harry in the entire burrow. So detailed that he often doubted Ron's sexual orientation at all that Ginny was so angry that she almost wanted to kill him. After Draco pointed out that he didn't know and he was the only one who knew, Ron held his head high, curled his lips and said, "I know everything. Harry doesn't know I know either. You all probably know my invention, the smoke bottle. I know, its prototype is the mist spell. The reason why it has this effect is all because of your special talent, Ron. You can inject your own emotions and memories from a first-person perspective into it." Neville cooperated and acted as a supporting role. He also wanted to know what other secrets Ron knew about Harry. How, you're not bad, Neville. My talent is to infuse my emotions into spells to produce specialized effects. At the same time, I can also sense the memories of others. Ron said this, and the people around him unconsciously took a few steps back towards Ron. Why are you reacting so strongly? I discovered this just as Harry left the mirror. I can't do it anymore. Faced with Ron's explanation, only Ginny showed hesitation on her face. The others all looked incredulous. After thinking for a moment, Ginny said, "That may be true. If he really knows our hearts, you and I don't know. If Ron knew what I was thinking, he would definitely speak it out." Hearing Ginny say this, Neville and Draco finally breathed a sigh of relief. "You don't believe what I say. Is Ginny's words more trustworthy than your friends?" Neville and Draco agreed without hesitation. Merlin's beard. Ron was about to lose his temper when he was forced back by Ginny's undisguised murderous gaze. "Okay, I'll continue, but Draco and Neville, you just wait." Snort. Well, that's it at that time. Harry had just defeated his evil mirror version of himself. My emotions are still unstable, so as soon as I touched his hand, I felt connected to Harry's memory. The defeat that Harry mentioned was not that simple. He accepted his dark side and became one with it. This is also why Harry can summon the Pluto dragon, just like his counterpart in the mirror world. Just like its original owner, Evil Harry. Ron explained. That explains everything that's happened recently. Because Harry absorbed the evil side of himself. So he unconsciously started making out with Ginny to release his lust after effects of him accepting the evil side of himself. By making out with Ginny, his lust was under control. But obviously, everything he did to Pudding was far less effective than being intimate with Ginny. So he chose to go to the mirror world to vent his desire for destruction. It all makes sense. Draco said excitedly. It was like a rare Norwegian ridgeback appeared before him. Indeed, didn't Harry often challenge me to physical fights before? Perhaps that was also a way for him to vent his desire for destruction. It seems that for Harry, lust is easier to solve. After all, I can be intimate with Ginny. Neville sighed. And inadvertently cue Ginny again. Make out. Make out. Can't you guys just stop mentioning me? Ginny waved her wand angrily. A swarm of bats that covered the sky and the sun swooped down on Draco, Neville, and Ron. Chapter 539, Draco, the Half-Baked Dark Wizard. If there was an entomologist here, he would be surprised. Because the high-frequency, piercing cicada chirping has arrived in Devon, England. There is actually only one species of cicada in the UK, found in the New Forest, Hampshire, and it is endangered and is a rare species. But if there were biologists here, they would be even more surprised. Because there are strange humanoid creatures whose skin is covered with shells, with compound eyes on top, and whose mouths are occupied by complex insect mouthparts, and which make cicada chirps from time to time. However, as long as there are those who pursue occult attention, believe in the existence of witchcraft experts, they will definitely be able to see details at a glance that the first two people failed to notice. Because in front of these three monsters, there stood a girl with a smile of relief, holding a small wooden stick. This little girl is clearly a wizard and a force of magic. Obviously, she was Ginny. Just now, she gave Ron and the other two a good beating with bat spirit because they were rude when they were discharged from the hospital. Well, it should be time. Ginny shook her hair. As soon as Ginny finished her words, Accompanied by 3 bangs, the 3 insect monsters next to her turned into human forms. It was Ron, Draco, and Neville. "I'm your brother." Ron touched his face with lingering fear, and only calmed down after touching his skin. "That bat spell of yours is so weird." Neville pretended to be surprised that he actually had the ability to directly block Ginny's bat curse just now, but his intuition told him that it would be better not to do so after all. He did say the wrong thing just now. "How did your magic become like this?" Draco was a little doubtful about his life. Ron can infuse magic with emotions. Neville has an unusually muscular body. Not to mention Harry. But how could Ginny cast such a bat spell? He now suddenly began to doubt that his talent was actually mediocre. Everyone else gave in to him just for the sake of his self-esteem. His curses are a bit embarrassing. It's very simple. I just found that I'm best at it, and then I looked up legends and information about bats to expand on it in depth. Ginny shrugged and answered half-truthfully. There wasn't really much of a problem with what she said. It's just that the ideas for in-depth expansion, as well as the feasible resources and legends, all come from Ryan and the Book of the Bat respectively. "What are you best at?" Draco began to think about the curses he knew. But as he thought about it, he discovered something disappointingly. He seemed to be good at everything, but not particularly proficient in anything. "Curse, you seem to hate the Malfoy brats." Kate looked at Ryan. She wasn't speaking up for Draco. It was because she discovered that among the students of the same grade who had a close relationship with Harry Potter, only Malfoy had not been instructed by Ryan. Furthermore, this Malfoy had only accidentally offended Ryan on the train when he had just entered Hogwarts. Smith has no grudge against the Malfoy family. A little bit, but only to the extent that Ginny is comparable. He just had bad luck and was not there at the time. Ryan raised his eyebrows and answered nonchalantly. "Today is Kate's birthday, and one of the birthday gifts is to go shopping with Kate." This was torture for Ryan. Even though he has a body of steel, he still finds it difficult to go shopping. Because this torture comes from within already celebrating with champagne. The reason why he answered Kate's question in this way was because he knew that the more he did so, the more Kate would want to chat. His talent is all in torturing himself. His nature is kind. But he is always able to hypnotize himself into going in the direction of evil. That's why he quickly learned the curse. But it is impossible to reach the pinnacle unless he really becomes a bad guy. Otherwise, his curses would always be at the level of an ordinary dark wizard. It's impossible to go further and add your own style to magic like Ginny did. Torture himself? Then magic which is most magic suitable for him. Kate was frowning. She couldn't imagine there could be such an outrageous person. Isn't he originally like this? Suppress your own compassion and bully others. He was born to do this. As for what kind of magic is most suitable for him? Occlumency, of course. The sword that corresponds to the shield of occlumency, legilimency, should also be suitable for him. Ryan said with a wry smile. Draco Malfoy is a standard villain in the original world line. The reason why he had so many fans before Ryan crossed over. It's entirely Tom Felton and the screenwriter's fault. It's just like how Ron was portrayed in the movie version, and all the highlight scenes with Harry were given to Hermione. The Draco Malfoy in the novel makes people hate him so much. But he has a kind heart. This makes him a bad guy. It was just like the curse that he couldn't get over. Content of Harry Potter's 7th task. Little brat, have you foreseen his ability to transform? Also, what kind of magic that Harry Potter knows can speed up his acquisition of the fruit at the end of the Tree Shepherd career system? Kate rolled her round eyes and turned her attention to Harry first. I can give you an extra hint about Aberforth's next target. As for what kind of magic it is, it's actually easy to guess. Harry's magical knowledge comes from 4 places: Atlantis, Hogwarts, Mind Games, and Moon City. So there is no way this magic could have come from Hogwarts. Otherwise, the Tree Shepherd would have promoted it in Castorbusa long ago. It won't be so difficult for outside abilities to know anything about it when it is mentioned internationally. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 540 Contract Tree Wand? In the wizarding world, every wizard family has its own unique magical knowledge. Just like Rolls Tartarus, only Roll can do that. There is also the unique alchemy skills of the Weasley family. The inventions of the Weasley twins, the grandfather clock in the burrow, and the flying car in the original world line, which had independent consciousness and roamed in the Forbidden Forest, all reflect the superb skills of Weasley Round. So even though she believed Ryan's words, she still subconsciously questioned Ryan's answer. The Potter kids should have other sources of magical knowledge. Weasley and Black. Weasley alchemy? Harry wasn't interested. Even among the Weasleys, only the Weasley twins and Arthur Weasley dabbled in it. Ace for Blake to watch and learn. In Godric's Hollow, in the Potter's old house, Harry suddenly opened his eyes. He had thought of that possible magic. Just as Ryan thought, he used logical thinking to deduce that the magic did not come from Hogwarts. Although he took many detours before, he finally figured it out of the potion-making process. Magic immersion refers to gazing at or directly touching the potion materials, and by imagining that it is a part of oneself, one's magic power penetrates into the materials and becomes one with them. The process of making potions in preparation for using spells to extract juice or crystals. Its biggest challenge is how to imagine that external objects are part of oneself. Before he unilaterally broke the contract, the tree was himself. Thinking of this, he couldn't sit still. After rubbing his thighs, which were slightly sore from sitting cross-legged for too long, he taped the mirror next to him and disappeared on the spot. Glanced at the flower pot on the table. It seemed that with his appearance, the tender saplings began to sway slightly without the care of wind. Dong dong, dong dong, dong dong. As his magic took over, Harry felt the surroundings grow quieter. A slight but obvious heartbeat began to become clearer as the outline of the holly sapling in his heart became clearer. It was as if he had become the tree. The lower half of his body was buried in the wet, soft earth. The dark soil seemed to connect his blood vessels, and the sunlight from the window penetrated through his hair of heat and thirst, and he was unable to extricate himself from ice water. Just thinking, more. I want more. It seemed as if a century had passed before he was ejected from his body, as if his soul had left his body. Harry opened his eyes and couldn't help but touch his body. He obviously has a strong body. But now, he had a strange sense of loss, another self. He seemed to feel that he was looking in the mirror, and the other self in the mirror was waving and smiling at him. This feeling made him feel lost. It took me a long time to come back to my senses. Harry wanted to continue with the previous steps. But his intuition told him that the contract tree had reached its limit. If you still want to, you can only wait until tomorrow. And Penelope once again speculated about Harry Potter's awakened abilities. After being denied by Ryan many times, the two bored people began to guess what kind of magic would increase the progress bar of the magic transformation of the tree shepherd profession. But this time, it was a little strange. After Penelope guessed many times, Kate didn't guess once. Me. Will I eat you? Heh. Kate chuckled, looked around, and chose to look at Ryan and said, "The answer is magic. I almost forgot, I was there at that time." Harry Potter saw that the book was potions first year recommended by Ryan. "You're right this time, Kate." Ryan agreed. Why? What's the principle behind this?" Penelope on the side expressed curiosity. "Magic. In the Middle Ages, people of that era preferred to communicate through duels. Therefore, wizards at that time all regarded becoming a duelist as their ideal, even though the lifespan of duelists in the Middle Ages was generally very short. Because, before the Ministry of Magic began regulating the use of the dark arts, duels were usually fatal. The character I am talking about is Godlet. He was a rare duelist who died of old age, due to the dangerous spells he invented in his own research in the field of dark magic. But he claimed that it had nothing to do with him, and that he wrote the spells and advanced the research under the guidance of his Elhorn wand. He described his wand in his notebook as my most evil and mysterious friend. Those familiar with wandology believe that wands do absorb the skills of their wielders. This is also why most wizards prefer to use a wand that chooses them, rather than just any second-hand wand. This is because a second-hand wand may have learned some habits from its previous owner that may not fit in with the new owner's magical style. Wands are usually buried, or burned, with their owners, which also. But what does this have to do with the tree shepherd? Penelope couldn't help asking. Ryan pointed to the wand in his hand and said, "A wand is made of magical substances, hair, heartstrings, nerves, etc., from magical animals plus wandwood. And wizards are also a kind of magical creatures. The owner's hair is added when the contract tree is planted, and it itself is also a species that can grow into wandwood. So the contract tree is equivalent to a magic wand." Magical transformation is the feedback that the magic wand gives to its master when it has learned something to a certain extent, and the magic immersion is the elixir that speeds up the learning speed of the magic wand. Chapter 541, 23rd Magic Transformation. Ryan was actually quite surprised. These wand makers actually used this opportunity to peek into some of the secrets of the Elder Wand. Because the Elder Wand pledges his allegiance to different masters at once, each succeeding the last, usually by taking his or her life, it has never been destroyed or incinerated. It contains much wisdom, power, and magic, far surpassing that of an ordinary wand. This is also the origin of the old in its name. In fact, ordinary magic wands can also achieve this. But it's harsh. Because a second-hand wand cannot absorb the wisdom, power and magic of wizards of different styles like an old wand. A second-hand wand is influenced by the first owner and can only draw power from wizards of a similar style to its previous owner. If you are unlucky and meet a wand that is not compatible with you, you will have to force it to work together, and the wand will eventually die. But as the number of its owners increases and the style becomes more specialized, although it becomes stronger, it will become a point where almost no wizard can use it. Voldemort's power during the duel, so that he could repel Voldemort independently without the control of its owner. However, it was easily broken by Hermione's thunderbolt explosion. This is definitely because Harry's wand is a special attack on Voldemort, but there are also reasons why the wand itself is not stronger than other wands. To be honest, against Voldemort, if you don't consider the indestructible nature of the Elder Wand, Harry's Holy Wand, which defeated Voldemort many times, is more powerful. The Elder Wand is great because it can be used for more than just fighting Voldemort. It can replicate the achievements of its former owner in the field of magic, greatly increasing the effect of spells. Harry relied on the achievement of an unknown former owner of the Elder Wand, who had reached level 6, Demigod Wizard, in the repair spell to repair the broken and dead Holy Wand. Little brat. Kate. Ryan pushed out of his thoughts. Wouldn't a tree shepherd be useless like this? I remember you said, little brat, that the wizard's ability to cast spells without a wand through his own hard work and study is actually equivalent to an ability of magical transformation. But doesn't it require hands to cast spells without a wand? I have several spells to cast. Kate snapped her fingers and a flame appeared at her fingertips. Her behavior had nothing to do with Vagaro's gesture magic. The wandless thing she mentioned is in the context of the European magical world. It refers to the fact that no spells, wands, or gestures are needed to create magical phenomena. This is similar to silent spells, which refer to casting magic without reciting incantations, rather than a specific magic or natural wandless magic to conceal your presence. Ryan agreed approvingly at Penelope. Tree shepherds are indeed not useless. The flow of magic power between the tree shepherd and the contracted tree makes up for the disadvantage that his hair is not as good as that of powerful magical creatures such as dragons and phoenixes. And your own hair is the most suitable for you. Just as Grandmother Fleur's hair suits her far better than the magical substances of other powerful magical creatures. In addition, the contract tree is a living wand tree, and has more advantages than wand woods that rely on various craftsmanship and the magic power of the wand core to form a cycle to maintain its activity. This is why it is easier for tree shepherds to transform their magic than wizards. Apart from the possibility that they may work hard to cultivate magic for a lifetime but still not transform, and the wizard cannot control the transformation of magic when it is born, there are no major disadvantages. It's good enough to be able to give birth to abilities. How can this be considered a shortcoming? Kate sulked and blew out a magic flame on her fingertips. The ability to transform magic is indeed born from combining the areas that wizards are best at. This also means that this is often what they like. From this point of view, you are right. But some abilities themselves will bring trouble to their owners. A wizard who likes and is good at curses does not want to curse people all the time. However, the uncontrollable abilities created by magic transformation may very likely create permanent abilities that can cause harm to others. If this permanent ability is combined with one's own indispensable ability like eyes, then Ryan didn't finish his words. Kate on the side said with an unpleasant expression, like Medusa, turning who sees her into stone? Fortunately, recently I am not like this because of your phoenix incarnation and the ability of secondary transformation. You transformed a second time? When? What ability? Penelope was very surprised. Because she and Kate entered the phoenix incarnation at the same time, how come Kate has transformed but she hasn't? At this time, Penelope chose to ignore the fact that she didn't like drinking the potion. Kate, This is considered 2.3 magical transformations. You have the innate ability to reduce your presence, which is 0.5. Later, for various reasons, it was moved to 1.5. This allowed you to move through shadows. Phoenix magic has brought you to 2.3, and now you can lurk in the shadows for a long time, not just a few seconds like before. Ryan immediately pointed out the mistakes in Kate's words. But he seemed unsatisfied and continued, however, Kate, you are different from Penelope. You are born with the ability equivalent to 0.5 transformations. Any future development will be based on it. What the hell are you worried about? Why isn't it 3 magical transformations? Kate was speechless. She didn't care at all about Ryan's ridicule behind her. What the hell does Ryan know? What if she's too shaded to be in the sun? Compared with the ridicule that followed, she felt that the 2.3 was even more irritating. She has a mild obsessive-compulsive disorder and desperately hopes that the number will be an integer. Penelope felt very Versailles about Kate's question. Ryan looked as if he had heard a joke 3 times, like a byproduct of becoming a demigod wizard, as the saying goes. All supernatural powers and transformations are fully possessed by oneself. It is not so much that the demigod wizards who have awakened a trace of the essence of the wizards who are called gods have actively undergone a magical transformation. Rather, it is because the essence has been awakened, and the magic power has been forced to jump. In response, Kate said she would not listen. She sat aside with a pout. Penelope blamed it all on not reading enough books. She began to read books to exercise her awakened photographic ability, looking forward to the early transformation of her magic power. Chapter 542 Lying. Ryan felt speechless. After he blew up the tree shepherd, Kate and Penelope didn't even think about learning his enhanced version of the tree shepherd. If Kate learns it, she can reach 2.7 magical transformations. Plus, Hermione and Luna also chose the Phoenix Incarnation Plus version. Ryan felt that the tree shepherd magic he had strengthened would probably be shelved. There's still 1 week left before school starts. Harry's Task 7 was not yet complete. Hermione and Luna's Phoenix Avatar Plus progress is also stuck. Because they are still girls and have never absorbed the potion in the proper posture. This is the exact opposite of Penelope and Kate. Their postures were correct. But neither of them drank much. Kate is just a little better than Penelope. Looking at Penelope, who was jumping for joy in the living room on the first floor because her memory had been upgraded to hypnosis. Ryan really wanted her to learn from fearing way. Kate has done a good job in this regard recently, with a bit of a hibiscus trend. This is also the reason why Kate's magic transformation is faster. Ryan, what's with your expression? Do you look down on my abilities? Penelope turned around and wanted to share her joy with Ryan, but she mistook Ryan's look of hatred for Penelope for not being as good as fear and as contempt. No, I just feel bad that your mental abilities have developed in this way. It would be interesting if they were telekinesis. Maybe you can even fly with it. Ryan explained in a positive way, trying to make the best of a bad situation. You've passed, so how much is this for me? Penelope asked curiously. 1.5 magical transformations. Ryan said. This is consistent with the degree of magical transformation experienced by an amateur wizard with no innate abilities who has mastered both the Phoenix Incarnation and the enhanced version of the Tree Shepherd. Hermione is this amateur, because she is thin-skinned, she drinks too little potion. As a result, there is no magical transformation or awakening ability. As for Luna, it should be at least 0.805 higher than the 0.3 before Penelope learned Phoenix Incarnation Plus. After Penelope said oh, she showed a sneaky expression. She glanced around secretly, and after confirming that Kate was not there, she said in a voice as loud as a mosquito, how many days does Harry Potter have left to complete Task 7? Let me make it clear first, I'm not curious about your hint. It's okay without me. I just don't want to lose. I don't mind, but, are you really sure Kate doesn't exist? Ryan pointed in the direction of Penelope's shadow. Penelope turned her head stiffly. In her shadow, a pair of eyes she was very familiar with were looking at her. Kate. Let me make it clear first. I just don't want to lose. Kate slowly emerged from the shadows and pricked her throat to imitate Penelope's previous tone. 10 minutes later, after Penelope had signed numerous humiliating agreements, Kate finally let her go. Kate finally had time to look at Ryan. In fact, she had just been thinking about hiding in the shadows and eavesdropping on Ryan's next words. She just didn't expect Ryan to point her out. Voldemort's power to achieve the so-called balance. He didn't have any magical transformation like this. Kate asked. Strongness and magical transformation are not the same thing. The magic of Harry Potter has indeed reached perfection, but that doesn't mean that it has changed. Before I brought up this term, have you ever heard of magical transformation? Unless there were wizards like Tonks who had their blood reverted to their ancestors and were born with 0.5 magical transformations, which led to their innate abilities, before becoming demigods, even if they had mastered wandless magic. But the magic itself has only improved in quality due to the accumulation of knowledge and the tempering of will, rather than undergoing a transformation in its essence. As for Harry's progress, which you are most concerned about, it just so happens that you asked at the right time. If nothing wrong, he will perform a magic infection ritual on the contract tree tomorrow, and his magic will transform. Ryan shrugged. In his opinion, neither Kate nor Penelope is in the running. Over the past few days, the two had speculated a lot about the abilities that would be born from Harry's magical transformation. But it's not even close to the mark, and is even getting more and more outrageous. Just like Kate actually guessed based on the Potter family's messy hair that could not be smoothed out, maintained a fixed length, that Harry would have the ability to control the extent of his hair after his magical transformation. And this ability can make his eyelashes and eyebrows grow longer to cover his eyes. This way Dumbledore or Grindelwald would not be able to see into Harry's secrets through his eyes. What's even more outrageous is that this answer is the most coherent among all the answers. Penelope on the side didn't say anything, her little head was spinning frantically. What is his area of expertise? Potions? No, it was Ryan. The magic of love? No, this was given by his mother. Defense against the dark arts? It is very likely that Quirrell was defeated by Harry Potter's magical red spark spell. Is it possible that Harry Potter is good at creating light? Maybe the dark spell invented by Harry Potter is also related to light. And Harry Potter's personality is indeed very sunny, it's just that he looks a bit ugly. After thinking about it, Penelope became even more desperate. Because she thought so before. Guessed something about the ability to create light, but none of them matched. Even her second guess, the magic of love, didn't fit. Not to mention magic. The worst thing was that every time she guessed to the end, she would always inadvertently think of Ryan. She didn't care too much, because she had seen and heard such words and actions no less than 100 times in these days. Last time, Kate was also so confident. At the time, her answer was outrageous. Harry Potter is very good at controlling the magical energy that comes from her mother's love. In my opinion, Harry Potter's awakened ability this time is also related to love. After much pondering and hundreds of trial and error, I am definitely right this time. The ability that Harry Potter awakened is the ability to be loved. That's why he was able to receive Ryan's teaching and Ginny Weasley's love despite his average looks. Just as Penelope was recalling, Kate happened to say, Harry Potter's awakened ability is lying. Just when Penelope thought Kate was going to be ridiculed by Ryan again, she heard this sentence. What? Kate, you actually guessed it right. Thanks to classmates 050819 for the monthly ticket and other classmates for the recommendation and subscription. Chapter 543, Almighty Domain. What is Harry Potter's status in the British wizarding world? In fact, this can be seen from the moment he first enters the leaky cauldron. From the elderly to children, everyone regards him as the little savior of the magical world. A blazing sun that dispels the darkness of the magical world and brings light. It can be said that children who grew up in the British wizarding world all grew up listening to the stories of Harry Potter. Even Lockhart, who was the top star in the wizarding world and a superstar in the eyes of middle-aged and elderly women in the original world line, couldn't help but take a photo with Harry, hoping to increase his fan base and make more money. So, facing Ryan's answer that destroyed Harry's character, Penelope couldn't hold it in any longer. How could that be? How come Harry Potter is such a good liar? Is this really an ability born from combining his nature and the areas he excels in? Her focus wasn't on Kate guessing the answer. She questioned the answer itself. In her eyes, although Harry looked ugly, he really had a heart of gold. Kate agreed as well. As a loyal fan of Harry Potter and the wizarding world, after she came to her senses, she also felt that the answer she guessed was a bit outrageous. She did not doubt Ryan's professionalism. But she thought that this might be Ryan's rhetoric again. His words actually contain other meanings. For example, the spell itself is to deceive the world. Understanding Harry Potter's lying in this way is actually to deceive the world and make the magic he casts easier to accomplish. If you look at it this way, it actually means reducing the cost of casting spells. Ryan could tell at a glance what Penelope and Kate were thinking. He shook his head and said, "When I say lying, I mean lying in the literal sense. Harry Potter himself was born in lies, and lies permeated his entire life. Born at the end of July, his parents escaped from Voldemort's pursuit 3 times. He possesses power that Voldemort does not understand, and he was marked by Voldemort and only one of them can survive. How epic it sounds, the destined nemesis of Voldemort, the savior who illuminates the darkness. But it was a lie from the beginning. Or maybe prophecy is the biggest lie. Before the prophecy was fulfilled, Voldemort was dominant. He decides whether this prophecy will come true. Potter also became the true savior marked in the prophecy and gained power that Voldemort did not understand. As for Voldemort, he violated the Peverell taboo and was only a demigod, so he was destined to be defeated under the guidance of the This was a lie from before Harry was born. From the time he was a fertilized egg until Voldemort arrived, he was living a lie. The Fidelius curse is the biggest lie. Hide the real address in the soul of another. This is to lie to the world and prove that it does not exist. Even Voldemort's attack was due to lies in lies. Sirius, who mistakenly believed that he had killed Peter, continued to lie and directly admitted the so-called crime. Arriving at the Dursleys, Harry was faced with lies again. He was kindly adopted by his aunt and uncle, who claimed that his parents were uneducated and died in a car accident. Even his true thoughts. I only make sarcastic remarks when I really can't help it, so how can his awakened ability be unrelated to lies? So what about his abilities? The word lie is too general. It is his words that are more convincing, or we can weave the future. Let the victims who touch the spider web he weave move in the direction he weaves and towards the destination he determines. Penelope asked, "It's not as specific as you think. His ability is more like the contract ability of Castor Palach, the tree shepherd at Hogwarts at the moment, which tends to be conceptual ability without a framework. After Harry Potter awakened this ability, he himself would be like a flower in a mirror or a moon in water, and it would be impossible to actually see himself. He can lie about anything, even himself. This is a blank canvas, allowing him to paint it himself." Ryan stretched out his index finger and shook it left and right, denying it. "Ah, that's too perverted." Kate, who has the ability to lurk in the shadows, said dejectedly. Penelope, whose ability is hypnosis, acknowledged repeatedly. The abilities that have broken through the transformation level 1 are actually developing in the direction of omnipotence. That power is the revelation of your essence. The beginning, what it shows to the outside world, is hiding your own presence. Towards the back, you can walk through it and blend in. You can combine what you have learned, or rely solely on your imagination to create another world in the shadows to achieve omnipotence from the beginning, which comes from your desire for knowledge. And now that you have reached 1.5 magical transformations, your true abilities have been revealed. You can use hypnosis to tap into your potential and learn all the magic to achieve omnipotence. Or it could be said gives that the magic that hypnotizes those dead things, them spirituality, and evolves everything to achieve omnipotence. If you can all reach this step, you will already be demigod wizards. This is also the secret of how demigod wizards can reach level 5 in any field by relying on time. They interpret everything based on their own worldview of becoming demigods. If demigod wizards had no lifespan limit, they could all achieve omnipotence over time. Your ability is your essence, and you need to think about how to sublimate it into your own worldview. Ryan warned. Then doesn't Penelope's ability seem very similar to Harry's? Kate asked curiously. Ryan shook his head. That's different. Lies come from deception. Hypnosis is a powerful conquest of immediacy. Okay, Kate. Now that you have guessed Harry's ability, do you need my hint? Aberforth's next target. Chapter 544, Original Heir Susan Bones. Silence, incomparable silence. Now Kate and Penelope were immersed in what Ryan had just said. Ravenclaw's instinct made them unable to help but discuss those words based on their own knowledge. Kate was so quiet that it was like if she hadn't heard the tip Ryan had just mentioned. Looking at them so quietly, Ryan couldn't help but start to daydream. Ryan actually didn't tell the whole story just now, about the origin of their nature. Like Ryan himself, his nature worldview comes from his past life. In his ordinary eyes, magic is a miracle. It has no limit and can do everything. As for Kate, Ryan probably almost sometimes forgot that she was actually a very gossipy and gloomy woman with a very low sense of presence in a world without Ryan. She broke up with Penelope and became a lonely passerby. As for Penelope, she had been hypnotizing herself. She knew from the beginning that Ryan was not a good match. But Ravenclaw's thirst for knowledge and her instinct for beauty made her hypnotize herself. Worldview is a microcosm of a person's character. It is only natural that they have such abilities given to them by virtue of their personalities. Wait, kid, if that's the case, then there's no such thing as bad abilities. As long as you work hard to study and practice your abilities, can't you erase the shortcomings that affect your normal life? Kate suddenly thought of the shortcomings of the tree shepherd that Ryan mentioned some time ago. The wizard cannot control the birth of the magic transformation ability. Ryan explained, this is related to the conflict between my acquired personality and my innate talent. A wizard whose gift is death may also have a heart that loves life. Just like Draco Malfoy, the areas he excels in are contrary to his nature. Okay Kate, you can discuss this stuff later. Don't you need a reminder? Okay. Kate regretfully. I feel sorry that my previous viewpoint, wouldn't it be nice if magic transformation could give birth to abilities, and this is not a shortcoming, was denied again. Then he said, of course I want this hint. I guessed it on my own, why shouldn't I want it? That's what I said, Ryan said. Although he said this, his mouth was tightly shut. However, his thoughts were connected to Kate. She is a witch. That's it. Yes, that's it. Then I guessed in vain. Okay. Ryan shrugged. Then he winked at Kate and made a cheering gesture. Ryan was confident this time that Kate and Penelope would never guess who the candidate would be. In addition to guessing, they must also provide solid evidence because the witch came from the academy that Kate and Penelope must have ignored. The previous candidates were from Slytherin and Gryffindor respectively. According to logical reasoning, if the candidates are excluded from these two houses, there is only one choice, Ravenclaw. Ravenclaws have a strong thirst for knowledge. There are some weirdos in there who can endure loneliness and study magic all day long. One of these people would be the perfect person to own the Hogshead after all. Aberforth is just a weirdo who likes goats. But in fact, she is a Hufflepuff student. A student at an academy that Penelope and Kate vaguely look down upon. In the original world line, without Ryan, the candidate was Susan Bones. She was considered by Aberforth as the successor to the bar after July 1996. Because, it was in that month that her Aunt Amelia Bones was killed by Voldemort himself. In addition, in the same year, her best friend Hannah Abbott left school after learning that her mother was killed by Death Eaters. She did not return to school until the Battle of Hogwarts in 1998, when she returned with other DA members. Susan, who lost everything, was like a rough stone that was cut open, revealing the crystal-clear jade inside. Thus, he was noticed by the picky Aberforth, adopted as successor. But things are different now. Now Susan is still a rough diamond that seems a little inconspicuous because of her laziness and her attitude of living a life of mediocrity. But another Hufflepuff witch quietly blossomed and was valued by Aberforth. Time, October 1993, 8. There are still 9 days until school starts on September 1st in the basement of Smith Castle. Ryan and the other two were watching the Burrow in Devonshire through Peter Pettigrew's projector. In Harry Potter's room, Harry was sitting cross-legged on the ground, with his 5 hearts facing the sky, meditating in front of the Covenant tree. How long will it take? Isn't the magic transformation happening today? How long will this guy drag on? Kate leaned on Ryan's chest, moving around out of boredom. Yes. Is there any difference between Harry Potter's transformation through the magic of the tree shepherd and our transformation through the phoenix? And what will happen to the contract tree after he succeeds? Wither away by himself? Or should the tree continue to grow, and when it dies naturally, it will undergo another magical transformation? Kate of Penelope Church, who was standing by, looked dignified and elegant, but she also seemed a little impatient. Ryan was taught a lesson he almost forgot. Harry Potter is not him. Harry didn't have such a handsome face as him. He almost mistook Harry for him. If Ryan was sitting cross-legged in the picture, I guess you'll never get tired of watching Kate and Penelope. It's not like now. I get bored in less than 10 minutes. On the other side, in the burrow, Harry was listening to a growing, distinct heartbeat. He had an inexplicable intuition that today, during this magical immersion, his contract tree would give him feedback. He will also undergo a magical transformation as described in Mission 7, Boo. There was a sudden sound like the cork of a gourd filled with wine being pulled out. On the contract tree, which was originally still in its sapling stage, the outline of a mature holly tree appeared. The full green leaves trembled slightly with Harry's breathing, as if they were real. Now, Harry opened his eyes. From his perspective, the outline of the sapling in front of him was not a tree. It's another me with green hair and green eyes. His other self blinked at him, then turned into dots of green light and rushed towards him. Just like a torrent rushing towards him into the sea, Harry was swept away by the green torrent. The next second, a tall holly tree appeared in its place, then it transformed into Harry's appearance. Chapter 545 True Lie. Task 8. Understand what a true lie is, or create 100 successful lies in a row without failure. Note, you will be facing two of the wisest wizards in the magic world. You need to successfully deceive their lies, which is related to the smooth progress of the resurrection ceremony. Also, pay attention to the time. Prophecy is the biggest lie. The first is a sudden enlightenment, and the second is a gradual enlightenment through a series of lies that have not been exposed. And the purpose seems to be to understand what is a true lie. But according to the judgment of this panel, it seems that if I successfully create 100 lies, I can naturally grasp what is a real lie. Also, the two wisest wizards in the magical world in the hint been synonymous with wisdom. Then, the name of the second professor is about to come out. Draco guessed right. He is Grindelwald. He is the only one who can rival Dumbledore. Pay attention to the time. I understand that the former task is the direction I should go. I had always received some intermittent attention from Dumbledore at school before school starts. After all, there are 100 lies to be told consecutively without failure. This is simply not achievable in 6 days. Also, is the prophecy about the biggest lie a hint about the true lie? Harry pondered. The sapling of the contract tree in the flower pot seemed to sense Harry's depressed mood swinging in Harry's direction. Fine senses, his pupils trembled, and his jaw seemed to be dislocated. Can you understand what I say? The sapling agreed. On the other side, Penelope, who was watching all this in the basement, couldn't help but become a little curious. Although the system panel and what Harry was thinking about did not actually exist in the real world, transcribed into text and became subtitles. Therefore, Penelope's curiosity was not because of the sapling's performance, but rather, what is a true lie? Also, Ryan, didn't you say that each of our abilities can actually develop towards omnipotence? Why did you let this Potter develop in such a single direction? It's not as complicated as you think. Sometimes the truth is the biggest lie. Ryan didn't say it explicitly, but just gave a hint. Because in his opinion, this is indeed easy to understand. Even though neither of them understood. Everything will be revealed in the upcoming film Harry Potter and the Resurrection Stone. This is the most suitable direction for Harry Potter to find a compromise between their talents and their true intentions and develop them, so that the sum of 1 + 1 is greater than 2 of your hint, Ryan. Kate, who was worried that the show Harry Potter and the Resurrection Stone would end in vain because of this, couldn't help asking. Draco Malfoy will help Harry Potter realize this. Ryan smiled mysteriously and stopped talking. Draco Malfoy. Little brat, what does this have to do with Malfoy? Say something. Kate and Penelope were naturally very angry about this much. It was August 1993, 8, after dinner, by the stream far away from the burrow. Harry, do you really know who your second professor is? Ron's head suddenly popped out of the water. The long red hair was wet, like a golden retriever dyed reddish-brown, combined with Ron's tongue sticking out because of curiosity and panting. It looked even more like it. That professor is Hagrid. He's going to the Forbidden Forest to train me because of my strong physique. Harry said casually. Although these words and reasons are absurd, they reveal a sense of indisputable truth. That's what I said. Draco is wrong. How could it be Grindelwald? Ron believed it at first. Why, that's right, Harry, your physique is indeed different from that of ordinary people. Was Harry's second professor, he would have accidentally revealed it during his last visit. But when the words came to his lips, he inexplicably forgot all this and analyzed Harry's words as irrefutable truth. He didn't even care about Ron's ridicule. After all, isn't Voldemort going to be resurrected? This can also enhance Harry's fighting ability. Neville on the side also echoed. As for Ginny, who did not go into the water but just dipped her 2 white little feet in the water to cool down, she was staring blankly at Harry's naked upper body. Even if Harry said he was Voldemort at this moment, Ginny would probably nod repeatedly. Harry, on the other hand, was not particularly happy. This was another lie on his part, fooled all his friends without exception. But this made Harry more certain. Based on his current progress, if he continues like this, it will probably take until October for the number of lies to reach 100. Moreover, lies must be continuous and cannot be exposed, so that he can gradually understand what a true lie is. It would be fine if I lied to Ron. Not far from him longer smelled good. Thanks to the user of the argument fruit for the monthly ticket and other classmates for the recommendation and subscription. Chapter 546, Colorful Ballfish and Soft-Clawed Land Shrimp. Clatter. The rushing water hits the colorful pebbles. The water splashing on the green moss sparkled beautifully under the sun. Small spherical fish with webbed feet were sneakily nibbling at Ron's pants as he swam in the pond. Neville on the side was holding up an unknown shrimp that was light gray, had green spots, and looked like a lobster. His muscled hands grabbed his head in pincers. Look, what did I grab? Is this a lobster? Maybe we can have a snack tonight. Ron swam over. The 12-inch long body of the lobster immediately caught Ron's attention. Then, a butt with transparent fluff revealed in the sun appeared in front of everyone. Ron's pants fell off. Draco was speechless. He had just been seriously analyzing Harry's lie and giving advice to the silent Harry. Hagrid was careless, Harry should be careful, and so on. But he was at a perfect angle to see something that made him want to poke his own eyes out right now. Ron Weasley. Ginny rushed over to Harry and covered his eyes. And Ron, Neville, watch out for the shrimp. Then, Neville was startled and his hand unconsciously loosened. Plop, reminded, having come to his senses. It's so fat. It's gone just like that. Ron paid no attention to the reactions of the people around him or his exposed lower body. He squatted into the pond in disappointment, with only his big hairy head sticking out of the water. Everyone couldn't help but laugh out loud. Ginny also released her hand that was covering Harry's eyes. Said, "That's not a lobster. It's called the soft-clawed shrimp. It is a kind of magical creature. The tail can be used to make potions. The bite has an unusual side effect. It makes everything go wrong for a week. Have you eaten it?" Ron came back to his senses when he heard the word shrimp. Although he just realized that his pants were gone even though there were lobsters in the stream. You can eat it. Although it looks like a lobster, it is not suitable for eating like a lobster, because those who eat it will have a high fever and a green rash. Soft-clawed shrimps usually live near the sea. It is thought to have come from the coast near the Devon town of Ilfracombe. Or maybe some of your relatives brought them when Ginny and I got engaged a while ago. But Ron, you should pay attention to your pants. Harry said with I have to say, Ron's funny behavior just now and his current reaction, when Ron heard that shrimps were not edible, his face dropped and he looked even more like a golden retriever, made Harry feel happy. Restored to its original state. Ginny couldn't bear to watch and restored Ron's pants to their original state. What is that? This time it was Ginny who spoke. A ballfish? What else could it be? They are not dangerous, they just chew on swimmers' feet and clothing. Really not dangerous. Ron waved his hands underwater to prevent the thing that had just got his heel from getting closer again. He didn't like playing in the water before. Ginny rolled her eyes. Ron breathed a sigh of relief, put on his pants, and climbed onto an exposed rock. Everything is done, right? I still need to analyze this with Harry. Draco glanced at Ron unhappily, then looked back at Harry. Where did you say it came from? Let me think about it. It seems that this is Hagrid's advantage. He is a half-giant and is naturally good at hand-to-hand combat. I once heard Hagrid say that in his first year, he went into the Forbidden Forest to fight trolls and raise wolf cubs under his bed. Although it sounds a bit harsh. Hagrid is actually born to be as cruel and destructive as a giant. But after years of training, Hagrid has become a peaceful and kind gamekeeper. In my opinion, Dumbledore probably also noticed the change in your personality after you, Harry, merged with your evil self, the desire to destroy. This way you won't have to play with puddings or wreak havoc in the mirror world anymore. What? I mean, how did you know? Harry was speechless with surprise. Malfoy, you bald freak. Did you promise not to tell? This is Ron. Reveal what? Harry looked at Draco and Ron. Immediately, I have noticed the looks from Ginny and Neville again. Do they all know? Or did Ron discover it? As for the pudding incident, it might be because he was too serious at the time and didn't notice Ron seeing it. But he accepted his evil side and caused destruction in the mirror world. How did Ron know about it? I know. Ginny looked at Harry apologetically. Then she talked about how Ron accidentally saw part of Harry's memory when Harry had just left the mirror world and discovered that Harry and his evil self had merged into one. And she saw Harry rushed into the mirror world and Draco's analysis afterwards. Harry looked weird about this. Draco's analysis was actually pretty accurate. He did vent the negative impulses from Voldemort by being intimate with Ginny and destroying the mirror world. Although it is a bit inaccurate, it is entirely because the information Ron provided was incomplete. Ron told exactly what he saw. But due to his perspective, he didn't know that Harry was honing his magic control ability with the pudding. I don't know, those negative impulses come from Harry accepting Voldemort's power. Harry, wait. A flash of lightning suddenly flashed through Harry's heart. Is this a true lie? All the arguments are true and valid, but due to information asymmetry, the conclusions drawn are almost the same, but full of loopholes. He thought of it. How could he hide the strange behavior he had done this semester in order to revive his mother? He just had to connect these actions to the real thing, dealing with the resurrected Voldemort. This is the real lie. Dumbledore and the others will only draw the wrong conclusions. The mistakes and omissions caused by his mind and experience can be completely compensated by his ability to lie. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 547 Mission Completed Task Panel. That's it? That's it? Is this what they call a true lie? She thought it was so high-end. This time it wasn't Kate who was watching Harry and the others live. She has her own life too. In fact, several hours had passed since Harry and his friends had been playing by the stream. Harry's thoughts before the task was completed. So, Kate didn't see the scene where Ron's naked body was exposed just now. If that's the case, I'm sorry, but Ron will probably just have to be a girl from now on. Faced with Kate's complaints, Ryan remained silent. He yawned and said to Kate sleepily in bed, Task 7 was originally made up. The only purpose of this task is to provide guidance for the development of Harry Potter's abilities. For Harry, his ability is the main thing. The sophistication of a lie is all in the details. This is the only way to prevent him from getting confused between master and servant. What about Mission 8? It's gone just like that. Kate crawled to Ryan's side, leaned her little head on Ryan's shoulder and asked. A wizard who is considered to be extremely gifted once said that 7 is the most magical number. So I think that's it, Ryan said. Kate, who had already experienced many battles with Ryan, naturally didn't care much. She puffed up her face and pushed Ryan away. What else can you think of besides this? Is this the end of Harry Potter and the Resurrection Stone? Ryan shamelessly pressed forward. Of course not. But have you forgotten? It's the 28th now, and Hogwarts will start next Monday, September 9th. Do I still need to assign so-called tasks through the system? Harry felt that the summer vacation was over too quickly. To be honest, he only played for 4 days this summer vacation. The rest of the time was taken up by the missions, his engagement to Ginny, and choosing a site for the cemetery. Even though they were things Harry put his heart and soul into, he still couldn't help feeling a little depressed. He suddenly felt so glad that he was a wizard and went to Hogwarts, the same school as his own. If it's Stonewall High School that Aunt Petunia mentioned, he might as well kill himself by banging his head against a wall. However, he still has 4 days to play. It was all because of that mission that came to an abrupt end. He still remembered that after he understood what a true lie was a few days ago, the task panel in his retina was refreshed. However, what appeared before him was not the so-called Task 8 1994. For example, during a certain period of time, a person will suddenly disappear to train himself, then he only needs to disappear during the agreed time period, on Easter Day, April 4th, to go to the old House of Gaunt in the real world, destroy Voldemort's curse, absorb Voldemort's remaining soul, separate the Resurrection Stone from the identity of a Horcrux, and hold a resurrection ceremony. The last thing to note is that you must return to Hogwarts before performing the last step of the resurrection ceremony, calling his mother's name. That's all he needs to do. So, in these last few days, he had time to really enjoy his summer vacation. On the last night, Mrs. Weasley conjured up a sumptuous dinner, all of which were Harry's favorite foods. The last dish was a honey pudding that made people drool just by looking at it. The evening was completed with Fred and George's Philippa fireworks display. Kitchen was filled with red and blue stars, bouncing between the ceiling and the walls for at least half an hour. After enjoying themselves, they drank a cup of hot chocolate and went to bed. It took a long time to get going the next morning. Mr. Weasley nearly broke his neck when he tripped over a chicken in the yard while carrying Ginny's trunk to the car. This is the traceless extension charm. Before getting in the car, Draco said to the trunk of the car in an admiring tone. The suitcases were magically enlarged fit into this little Ford Anglia. Arthur, Muggles are really smarter than we thought. You can't tell from the outside that the car is so spacious, right? Mrs. Weasley suddenly appeared behind Mr. Weasley. Her tone was unusually gentle and very strange. Dad is finished. Ron, who was next to Harry, wiped the cold sweat from his forehead. Harry questioned his face. Ron looked at Mr. Weasley with sympathy. When it was not yet legal to modify Muggle items, my father lied to my mother, saying that the spaciousness of the car was all due to the spatial structure design of the Muggles and had nothing to do with magic. That's what my mother sighed at that time. After got on the bus one after another. We have to hurry. After everyone sending Harry and the others to school and taking you home, Bill, Charlie and I have to go to work. Mr. Weasley looked at his watch and said in a tone that he was trying hard to hide his fear. Mr. Weasley obviously wanted to postpone this disaster until he got home from get off work. Mrs. Weasley also hesitated. She glanced towards the back row, where Harry, Ginny, Neville, Draco, Ron, Fred, George, Percy, Charlie and Bill were sitting comfortably side by side so, between her children, working and teaching Mr. Weasley a lesson, she chose the former. Okay, go home early tonight. Mrs. Weasley said almost through screaming her teeth. She wanted to pat the steering wheel to express her joy, quickly with her hand, started the engine eagerly, and drove the car out of the yard. Classmate Jaya Ashitkin for the monthly ticket and other classmates for the recommendation and subscription. Chapter 548 At the King's Station. Unlike the Weasleys, Ryan and his friends didn't need to prepare everything in a hurry. Because they can always go back to Smith Castle. So even if Ryan and the others don't carry anything with them and travel light, they can still do it. But life always needs a sense of ritual. Penelope is such a person. It's just like insisting on writing letters when you can communicate directly through your mind. Penelope also has her own unique quirks when it comes to going to school. Even if Ryan snaps his fingers, the Lord God can complete all the steps of mind reading, space transfer, space expansion, putting into the box in an instant. She still insisted on packing everything she might need at Hogwarts into boxes herself. Old Jack stood aside with a sullen look on his face. This stubborn house elf took Penelope's actions as a dereliction of duty. Could only luggage stand there, motionless. 10 minutes later, after Penelope had packed her, Ryan hasn't said he's leaving yet. Kate, the monkey on the side, took Ryan and Kate's hands and walked forward. Obviously, she is no longer difficult to annoy. Passing through the familiar gray film, the next second, they appeared on the inside of King's Cross Station. Inside the wall, the real platform where the train to Hogwarts stopped. They looked up and saw the Hogwarts Express, its scarlet steam locomotive belching smoke over the platform, which was filled with witches and wizards seeing their children off to the train. Okay, little brat, it's time to go. Kate let go of Ryan's hand, took Penelope's hand and walked towards the train. But you want to say you have the clone trick? You should spend more time with the newcomers. Kate turned her head and made a face. Seeing that Ryan was still a little hesitant, she continued, have you forgotten that Penelope is the president of the student union? Neither she nor I have time for you, Penelope. Agreed in agreement and disappeared into the crowd. Ryan, he had no choice but to turn his head and look at the platform on the other side of the platform railing. Harry and the others just came through the wall waiting for Neville. Neville almost fell into his mother's arms, his eyes red. Draco's father, his fiancée Pansy and Crabbe, and Goyle were also waiting for Draco. But maybe it's because of my identity. Lucius Malfoy stood a little distance away from Neville's parents. The relationship between father and son is also more reserved, and they value so-called decency. So Draco didn't run over like Neville. Instead, he walked slowly with a very dignified pace. However, Pansy seemed to have a different opinion. She fell into Draco's arms. As for Sirius, he headed straight for the Weasleys' house. This resulted in Harry just letting go of Ginny's hand and not walking far before returning to the Weasleys. Ryan couldn't get enough of this. Because these scenes that were impossible to appear in the original world line were all created under his guidance. He was as absorbed and contented as a director watching his own movie. Especially since he will soon be leading a grand ceremony involving the god of death that violates the laws of nature. What would Snape's expression be at that time? Can Dumbledore and Grindelwald still hold their nerve and act calm all the time? Thinking of this, Ryan couldn't help laughing out loud. The crowd on the platform erupted in villainous laughter. This doesn't mean Ryan doesn't want face anymore. It was because, just like before, he concealed his whereabouts. People around him would ignore him, pretend not to hear him, and subconsciously leave the place where he stood. So, laughing, Ryan disappeared on the spot. In an inner compartment of the train, Ryan, who was pretending to read a book next to Hermione and Luna, shuddered. For Ryan, removing the extra body shape was as refreshing as suddenly turning on the air conditioner on a hot day. And on Harry's side, after saying goodbye to Sirius, he soon reunited with Ginny and the others. Draco, Pansy and the others have already boarded the train. Fred and George ran away so fast that they disappeared in a flash. It is said that they went to look for Lee Jordan. But Ron said it was definitely too early for them to go because Angelina had gone. They were both interested in her. However, the luggage of the two men remained where they were. Bill and Charlie had to act as porters for their luggage. Bill originally wanted to use magic. But after Charlie showed off his muscular body, Harry and Neville easily carried the box that looked very heavy. His dignity as a man made him choose to use physical strength instead of magic. Damn it! Ron complained as he carried the box. I have regretted that I had forgotten one thing. That is, their luggage was taken care of by the house elves at Hogwarts. He could have just found an empty carriage to sit in. Then leave your luggage where it is. Charlie and Bill will help him carry his luggage train, past the packed cars, until they came to a car that looked empty. They put the boxes up there and put Hedwig on the luggage rack. Then he got off the train and said goodbye to the Wheel Eyes, Bill and Charlie. You must be careful at Hogwarts. Remember to especially stay away from people from Durmstrang. Their headmaster, Karkaroff, is a Death Eater. Mrs. Weasley said seriously. She looked into the eyes of each of her children one by one. Isn't there Grindelwald? Isn't he dangerous? Ron asked. Mrs. Weasley gave Ron a stern look. He's got Dumbledore watching him. Ron shrank back. Karkaroff is a two-faced guy who betrayed all his colleagues in order to escape punishment. During this period when Voldemort is about to be resurrected, it is difficult to guarantee that he will not betray us again for the sake of his own safety. Mr. Weasley said hurriedly. He glanced at Mrs. Weasley. It seems that he wanted to escape the disaster after getting off work through this action. Mrs. Weasley's clenched fists relaxed, and it seemed to be working. Anyway, Potter, you and Ginny are engaged. You have to promise me that you are willing to protect her with your life. Bill, who was sweating profusely from moving luggage, suddenly looked up and said, Bill, why are you talking? Elder brother, you're going too far, said Mr. and Mrs. Weasley, Ginny, and Charlie respectively. I promise, Harry firmly said. Hearing this, Bill smiled and hugged Harry. At this moment, he seemed to really acknowledge Harry, his sister's fiancé. Chapter 549, Single Dog Neville. Harry knew Bill had no good intentions. He would swear on his wet face. After the whistle sounded and the railway staff closed all the doors along the train, Ginny couldn't help herself. She drew her wand and pointed it at Harry, Whirlwind. Bill, come on, I thought he really accepted you. Look at your face full of sweat. Harry didn't care much, he already knew Bill's attitude towards him. However, Ron and Neville remained silent, which made Harry curious. Meeting Harry's gaze, Ron spoke. Is the Ministry of Magic busy? You know, in the past, Dad and the others wouldn't leave until the train started. This time he just said a few words and left. Ron, who was careless as usual, touched his chin and thought. Coincidentally, just as Ron finished speaking, the train began to move, spewing steam. Why don't we go back to the carriage and sit down? Neville suggested. You know, Harry's engagement occupied the covers of all British newspapers at the time. If Bill and the others hadn't cleared the way just now, they had already been surrounded by classmates who had been holding back their curiosity for a whole summer. The most urgent thing now is to get back into the carriage. What? I haven't taken a good look at it yet. I wonder if Krum and the witch from Boxburton's are on the train. Thinking of his idol and his crush, Ron suddenly regained his original form and threw all his thoughts out of his mind. Neville breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed that Ron didn't understand the implication of his words. Ron is a very pushy guy. Among the four of them, Ron was probably the only one who felt at ease and overjoyed to be surrounded by his classmates. But apparently, Harry and Ginny understood. Ginny looked at Harry. Harry stepped forward and put his hands on the shoulders of Ron, who was lost in his own world. I just checked, there are no unfamiliar faces to get to Hogwarts. Let's go back to the carriage first. Maybe they are already selling snacks now. Ron, Then what? Is this really Ron? Even food can't impress him? Harry was quite surprised by this. However, Ginny is a different person. She looked at Ron with disdain and said, "I say, have you really forgotten that you have a girlfriend?" Draco knew that this was the time with Pansy. Neville is single, but you are not. Neville on the side felt very angry. "Let's go back to the carriage first," Ron said without hesitation. People always tend to compromise. For example, if you say that the room is too dark and you need to open a window here, no one will allow it. But if you insist on tearing down the roof, they will compromise and agree to open the windows. Ron just felt more comfortable being with Harry than meeting his idols, looking at beautiful women, or being with Lavender. "Ginny, wouldn't it be better if you said that earlier?" Harry looked at Ginny with admiration, and immediately struck while the iron was hot and let Neville lead the way. He lowered his head and followed closely. Perhaps because the train had just started and was packing their bags or discussing the rules of this semester's competition, Harry and his friends were lucky enough not to attract anyone's attention and return to the carriage safely. Hedwig chirped happily when she saw Harry, and Leif hid in the gap between the boxes. However, Neville easily found Leif, grabbed it in his hands and started playing with it. "Rafu, you're playing hide and seek again." Harry disagrees with this. He felt that Leif wanted to leave Neville. Although Neville does love Leif. But as a toad, Leif probably doesn't like being played with by Neville all the time. "Neville, maybe your method is wrong." Ron stood up. He proudly pulled Banban out of his pocket. And with just one hand, he rubbed Banban so hard that she rolled her eyes. Neville tried hard to observe Ron's techniques and use them on Rafe one by one. Harry on the side couldn't help but shook his head. Ron is just like this. As long as he can find a way to show himself, he will forget about any troubles, no matter how big they are. And how could Neville believe Ron? The animals they both raise are also different. Harry was a little skeptical. If it weren't for the fact that Rafe was suspected to have the blood of a magical creature, it would probably have been raised to death by Neville. So, with Ron's help, poor Leif enjoyed the death roll spa which lasted for nearly half an hour. Hedwig, who was standing by, was so frightened by the scene that she dared not utter a word. They obediently tie nuts, which owls don't like very much, to calm themselves down. Seeing that this affected his pets, Harry quickly asked, "I say, have you signed the Hogsmeade consent form?" Subconsciously stopped what he was doing, and Radford took the opportunity to jump onto the box. "And Ron, of course I signed it. There's no need there. Only a fool wouldn't sign it." Harry's words seemed to have hit another sore spot for this weird guy Ron. So much so that he began to talk non-stop. "There's everything there. Pepper boy, eat it and smoke comes out of your mouth." There were juicy chocolate balls full of strawberry custard and regular custard, and really wonderful quills made of sugar that you could suck on during class and look like you were thinking about what to write next. "But haven't we been there before? We've been to the Shrieking Shack, the most haunted house in Britain," Ginny said sarcastically. "Huge scones that keep you floating several inches off the ground as you suck on them. And maybe I'll meet some students from other schools there this time," said Ron, who certainly hadn't heard a word Ginny said. Ginny rolled her eyes. When it comes to other schools, after he briefly mentioned the Tree Shepherd of Castrobus and mentioned Tickham in detail, he suddenly paused. As if waking up from a dream, he suddenly raised his head and looked at Harry. "The French people all love to eat desserts. Ron, Lavender's your girlfriend, right? About to be resurrected, how could I have such thoughts? Well, I am trying to win over the students of Boxbuttons. They are all good at alchemy, which will be very useful when fighting against the Death Eaters in the future. Neville, you are still not conscious enough as a comrade. How can you be so superficial? Also, Ginny is right, you should find a girlfriend," Ron said righteously. Ginny, who was called out, began to doubt whether she had really said that. When Neville was speechless, the image of a ruddy-faced girl with 2 golden braids suddenly appeared in his mind thanks to Taishi Umetsu for the monthly ticket and other classmates for the recommendation and subscription. Chapter 550 Neville endures humiliation. "I hope there's potions on the first day of school," Neville muttered. "What? Neville you?" Ron looked betrayed. He and Neville were the only 2 students in Ravenclaw who were targeted by Snape. "Oh." Ginny sighed meaningfully and looked at Neville with interest. "Aren't there elective courses after the 3rd year? I think she also picked up care of magical creatures." "Her? Hufflepuff." Ron looked at Neville. "Oh? Who is it? Susan? Lainey? Or Hannah?" Harry began to talk about the Hufflepuff witches who he remembered talking to Neville. Seeing staring at him, Neville said, "I'm so everyone's sleepy. I can't sleep anymore. I was so excited that I didn't sleep the whole night." Him a few times unwillingly. Seeing that Neville still didn't move, he had to sit down dejectedly. "Harry, this book Seeing the Future Through the Mist is so strange. Why is it weird? The content is all groundless speculation, and there is no content to train the third eye or tap into intuition. Ryan once said that if you don't teach divination, you won't be able to become a fortune teller. Divination depends on talent. If you have it, you have it. If you don't have it, you don't have it." Ginny and Harry on the side were preparing for their lessons. The Hogwarts Express headed steadily northward. The scenery outside the window became increasingly wild and darker, while the clouds overhead grew thicker. Outside the door of their carriage, they began to hear people walking back and forth. Neville was still dozing off. Ron wanted to go find Lavender, but he couldn't afford to do so. More importantly, Lavender's best friend Parvati has always disliked him because of Lavender's prophecy. He didn't want to go up now and get himself into trouble. After thinking about it, Ron had no choice but to start reading, but he was reading History of Magic because the Monster Book of Monsters is too lively. Other textbooks are just dry knowledge. Only History of Magic has a complete story. As for the latest Ariman, Summoner's Kingdom, Neville, are you still going to pretend to be asleep? Ron put down History of Magic and said to Neville, who seemed to be really asleep. He waved his hand in front of Neville's closed eyes. "Well, he is really asleep. Up, I'll spread the news that you like Hannah everywhere." As soon as Harry finished speaking, Neville heard his hungry stomach growing. He rubbed his belly naturally and opened his eyes. "Harry, how do you know I like to eat big pot scones? Anyone want some cake?" The carriage door opened, and the smiling, dimpled witch who they had met twice before suddenly appeared in front of Harry and the other scones. "Harry, how did you know there were cakes for sale? You've been with us almost all the time. When Sirius came, you only took a dozen steps towards him and then walked back," Ron said as he took out a large gold galleon. "I bought BB every flavor: beans, puffball, super bubble gum, chocolate frog, licorice magic wand, and a whole row of big pot scones. Trivia: you can also buy the items on the food trucks at the stands. My dad bought a scone." Harry should have noticed. "Don't you think so, Harry?" Neville put his big hand on Harry's shoulder, with a baby face showing a kind smile. Harry nodded repeatedly while marveling at Neville's strong hands. After the witch left, Ginny quickly stood up and closed the door, then looked at Ron and said, "It's only a dozen silver sickles and a few copper nuts. Why did you pay so many gold galleons? I finally have money. Doesn't this make me look rich?" "Ginny, you may not know this, but Harry did the same thing on the train 2 years ago, taking out a handful of gold galleons and silver sickles. At that time, I had an idea. He could replace him." Ron said this and even felt wronged. "Okay, Ginny, it's good that Ron, this handsome guy, is willing to pay for our meal." Burying his nose in Ginny's fiery red hair and sniffing her lightly. "How come you are so skilled?" Ginny blushed, immediately forgetting any sarcastic remarks he had yet to make to Ron. As for Harry's proficiency, it was probably because he was so compatible with her. So this proficiency is developed through practice. In fact, Harry is still a virgin physically. But psychologically, he and Bella had already made love for more than 100 rounds. So now it was easy for him to comfort Ginny. Even if he wanted to, he could kill Ginny with his eyes closed. "Here, your scones, eat more." In this regard, Neville just wanted to ask, "Is there any water?" He was so absorbed in the pile of scones that he even forgot the spell water like a spring, which he used most often after duels. "Neville, you haven't eaten enough. I just noticed that you have been secretly looking at the scone in my hand many times. Come on, give it to me, it's delicious." 10 minutes later, when Neville had finished a large stack of scones and was actually choking and wanted to drink water, Harry handed over the scones that he had deliberately left in his hand. "Thank you." Neville wanted to get angry, but when I think of Hannah, he hardened it. He just grabbed the pancake with his hand, but with great force, and it sank deeply into the crust. Ron, standing by, mistook this for excitement. Neville certainly didn't enjoy the meal. He suddenly stood up and pretended to open the door. "Neville, you really like to eat this, don't? I have plenty of money. I'll go out for a while and buy some more cakes." Harry chimed in, "I know where she is. You can find her by the front driver." "No, Ron. I'll be full after I finish Harry's." Neville quickly stretched out his hand and burped. Well, to be honest, I wanted to go and see Lavender. We haven't seen each other for a summer. I've just been writing letters lately. Ron scratched the back of his head sheepishly. In fact, the main reason was that he was bored. With Ginny around, Harry ignored him. In this case, it is normal for him to go to Lavender, who is a backup for Harry. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.